Hello everybody, welcome to the All Hands on Deck podcast. I am your host for this, CaptainTurbo, and joining me tonight we have the pun master himself, GunarmDyne.
Hi everybody!
We have the Lolicon, OPIman100.
Oh, hi.
And we have, I'm changing your nickname, Nova, from the lone voice of sanity to the permanent resident of Eorzea.
And don't be fooled, I'm still the lone voice of sanity.
Well, actually, no, Dan is here. He's not sane. If Mark, here's the thing: I was expecting Mark to be here, but he's not. So, yeah, you are technically still the lone voice of sanity.
Well, I'm personally sane. It's just the many personas within me that may or may not be sane.
Oh, we don't want to visit from Kefka, of course.
Of course, we're not talking about his game yet.
No, not yet. Which does bring me to what we're talking about tonight. I decided since E3 is only a couple weeks away, and a few weeks ago, the more Final Fantasy VII Remake footage came out, and they said we'd get more information at E3. That's in a couple of weeks, and I am really excited to see stuff about that, and I thought it was a good time to talk about Final Fantasy in general, so I figured, why all of us, apart from Opie, who is basically just here to talk about, his waifus in the series, all of us have at least some experience with most of these games. Minus one or two here and there. I think we all have enough experience that we can probably, actually have a proper chat about some of these games and this entire series as a whole. So basically, we're just going to run through the main series as well as the direct sequels to the main series. We're not going to be talking about spin-offs unless we have time at the end of the episode, because I don't know what time we're going to get to, like, FF15. So we'll just see how it goes. So I guess the first thing I want to ask this before we even start is, what was everybody's first Final Fantasy game?
Well, Final Fantasy II US, it was a copy that belonged to a friend of my brother's. I was like in 3rd grade, 9 years old, and it just catered to the love of fantasy and got hooked on it, despite having played Dragon Warrior beforehand, but it's what really got me into JRPGs in general.
Fair enough.
It was actually the same for me, Final Fantasy. I had actually been to somebody else's house playing it one time. I think I tried to rent it and failed and got FF3 US instead, mistakenly.
So you actually got the really good one.
Well, I still consider 2 to be my first one, because I got to play it while I was over at the other house. It's just, didn't get to rent it for myself.
Alright, fair enough. Opie, do you even have anything to say on this topic?
No comment.
Yeah, he hasn't played a single
What was
Final
your first FF waifu?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Come on, you must have one.
There's so many though. I need
Who's
to
the
Do you know what? I think what we'll do is, after each game, I'll ask him which is his favorite waifu from that game. That makes sense to me.
I need to see the characters and all that. If I'm going.
Well, you'll have to get it yourself.
I mean, to be fair, Turbo and myself should know who his first wife was back from FF15 stream.
Oh yeah, Cindy.
Of course, Cindy.
Fucking awkward considering that's my mom's name.
I'm overdue for an oil change.
Indeed. Nova, just heads up, you may need to play around with the microphone just a little bit. You're coming through a bit staticky at times.
Okay.
As for me, obviously internet spoiled a lot of Final Fantasy spoilers and stuff like that, so I already saw things like Aerith's death and all that, so the first game I played was actually the Dawn of Souls remake for 1 and 2 on the Game Boy Advance. I actually paid out of the fucking pocket for that because I thought it was a really rare game. I feel ripped off. The game's fine, but it's very dated, let's put it that way. So I've actually I haven't gone in order of the series, but I've did at least start off with Final Fantasy 1, even if it was a remake.
Well, Dawn of Souls is the second best version of 1 and 2.
Oh, I'm not talking about the version itself. I'm just talking in terms of an actual game. It's but we'll get onto that in a moment, because we're actually going to start this. We're going to start with Final Fantasy 1. We're going to talk. If you have an opinion on all the different versions, that's fine. But yeah, we'll start with the first Final Fantasy, obviously released in 1987. Square Enix, for basically their swan song at the time. So, anybody want to kick us off with this one? Thoughts, opinions?
Well, of course, you can thank FF2 for FF2 US for getting into the series. We said, "Oh man, this is cool. We got to play the first one." And we had a friend we were living at the time, who had the first one, got into it, had no idea what the hell we were doing, but fortunately Nintendo Power had a convenient guide that came with it that made it a bit easier to figure out what was going on, but at the same time, you had to do a lot of grinding.
That was the same in a bunch of the Final Fantasy games, though, isn't it?
Well, the early ones most of all.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't think you have to grind all in 15, to be fair. I mean, I've said... I think I've said this before, in, like, when I actually Let's Played Final Fantasy 1. I think if you want to get into RPGs, like, learn the mechanics of how they work and stuff, and obviously if Pokemon's a bit too simple for you, Final Fantasy 1 is actually a really good place to start, because it'll teach you everything you need to know, but you have to bear in mind there's practically no story there, and the characterization is zero. You know, the characters don't even have names, you give them names yourself.
And depending... Well, of course, not just the names, but also their job class. But, of course, depending on which version you're playing, don't expect a lot of help on the original, because nothing tells you who can equip what.
Well, the original will just kick your ass anyway. Of
course.
It's well known to be one of the most difficult. I think I have played the original NES version, only on the emulator. I don't even know we got the game over here. No, we didn't actually. We didn't actually get any Final Fantasy till 7. So yeah, I don't feel too bad about playing on the emulator. I think I got the first time I got to like the 9 pirates that you have to fight, which is technically a boss fight. And I got you know what I mean. But I got my ass handed to me in that fight because I hadn't been grinding or anything, and I just got annihilated, and it kind of put me off playing the rest of the game. What about you, Nova? You've been fairly quiet for this one. Never played it?
Not the NES version, no. I played it via Dawn of Souls for the GBA.
Ah, good man, good man.
That's pretty much most memorable about FF1 is any of the stuff from there that came back in other Final Fantasy games, namely Chaos and his the 4 the 4 fiends that appear in the game: the Fire, Lich, the Fire Snake, and the other 2. Was it Tiamat, and I can't remember what Kraken.
Yeah, Lich, Carrie / Merilith, Kraken, and Tiamat.
Yep.
I mean, I'm looking... I mean, I assume everybody... I mean, obviously the 3 of us, since obviously Opa's here for different reasons, but I assume everybody's played... Did you play the Dawn of Souls remake as well, Dyne?
Oh yeah, I have played every version that has been released in the US. Original NES, the PS1 remake, which changed things up a little bit, added an easy mode or an original NES difficulty mode, so it was mostly a graphics overhaul and a retranslation. And then it wasn't until Dawn of Souls and the PSP versions that just basically started from scratch, gave actual MP rather than just spell cast slots, and kind of restructured things a bit more.
Yeah, I definitely think the remakes are the way to go with FF1. I mean, if you want a challenge and you want to see where it started, obviously play the original NES version, but no, definitely play one of the remakes. I personally recommend the Game Boy Advance version if you're going to play, or even, I know a lot of people like the PSP port as well.
Yeah, the PSP port is an improvement on the Game Boy Advance version. Improved graphics, improved sound chip. The only thing that it doesn't do well is the new bonus dungeon added on top of all the GBA content. It just feels pointless.
I'm just sorry,
nothing special.
I was just saying, I'm looking at the Wikipedia page right now. The most recent release for this was 2014 for the Nintendo 3DS. I'm amazed they were releasing versions of it since then. But unfortunately, Opa, there's no waifus for you in this game, I'm afraid.
No, the white mage is usually considered as a female, especially in the
Has that ever been
wonderful
confirmed?
Well, not confirmed, but if it wasn't the case, then we wouldn't have the awesome white mage waifu in 8-Bit Theater, the awesome webcomic based on Final Fantasy 1 that ran for several years.
Fair enough.
Well, not only that, there is the one character, an NPC in that game that exists that comes up in other Final Fantasies. That would be what's the Princess Sarah of Corellia.
Yep.
Is she actually? You say she got an update somewhere, like a graphical update in another game?
They gave her purple hair.
Of course they did.
She's blonde in the original.
So like the fucking Terror and what's her name thing from FF6. There's again, there's not really a whole lot to say about one, really, is there? There's no story. Sorry, there's practically no story, and there's almost no characterization whatsoever.
Well, despite that, one introduced a lot of elements seen carry out throughout the series for the most part. The four elements are used in 3, 4, 5, and beyond. You get, of course, the four fiends, also heavily reused in 4. Of course, the job class change, early elements that ran through the first half of the series. A global airship, which kind of opens things up, doesn't quite keep things super linear once you get that. And originally dummied out, but brought back in different ways in a sequel, a character named Sid.
Yep.
Or rather, brought back in a remake.
Wasn't I might be misremembering here, but it wasn't there like always an Easter egg in like the graveyard, like here lies Link or here lies the guy from the first Dragon Warrior?
I actually believe it was Nestor from Nintendo Power.
I'm not sure. I know Link was in one of them because it would have been the Game Boy Advance version because that's one I played the most.
We'll have to go back and double check. It does sound familiar.
It's something like that anyway. I think out of all of them, this is probably the one we've all played, but the one we're going to have the least amount to say of the ones we've played. Because again, there's not really a whole lot to say with this one.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 1, as we said, if you're going to play the Game Boy Advance version, and it's a good way to teach you how to play an RPG. Just remember, kids, always put your mages in the back row.
Yes.
Alright, so I guess we can move straight on to Final Fantasy 2. So, yeah, you guys say... Obviously, when you say 2 earlier, you were talking Final Fantasy 4 is the ones you played first, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
of course. Obviously, if anybody's wondering, that's because they skipped 2 and 3 in America and went straight to 4 and named that 2 and blah, blah, blah. Fuck you.
Yeah,
we still didn't get any till 7. You're lucky.
Well, that's the interesting thing because we had no idea that
Not for the
US
longest
skipped 2 and
time,
3
anyway.
because there's so many similar elements between 1 and 4 that we could have assumed they just jumped straight to that one.
I assume that
Right.
actually... I assume you guys figured that out when 7 was released, right? And they just kept it as 7?
Yeah.
I figured that out earlier because my brother and I were avid gaming magazine fans. They talked about Final Fantasy 3 being Final Fantasy 6 and how we
did they?
originally were going to get FF5, but that got skipped over. Anyway, we'll come back to those when we get
Of course. Anyway, on to Final Fantasy 2. Released... I'm just looking at the thing here. Released in Japan on December the 17th, 1988. And released... Actually not... We'll just talk about that one then, because it wasn't released in North America till 2003, and the same here in 2003. So, yeah, big... It took a long time for that to get released. 15 years between Japan and the rest of the world. That is quite the large gap.
But a fan translation of the Famicom version was released in about 1999-2000.
Oh, come on. If they'd have waited just a couple more years, they'd have been released. Genuinely. Again, I've played this game. Obviously, I have the Dawn of Souls, which is a combination of both 1 and 2. I know this one gets a lot of hate, and I do agree with some of the hate, but it was just so nice to actually have a story in the game, a Final Fantasy game, with actual characters.
Yeah, you could argue that the story in FF2 is the best of the NES trilogy.
I'll get to 3 in a bit, but yeah, carry on with that.
Yeah, because you might admit it's fairly cliched or straightforward, but you got a villain who knows what the hell he's doing.
Yes.
I mean, I've heard like the comparison sake that Final Fantasy II's story is essentially just the first Star Wars story, obviously, but in the more fantasy style telling of it. And then Pyre comes down, attacks, and there's a bunch of rebels and all that crap. You know, it does say. I mean, everybody I've seen tends to make the comparison between the two.
Yeah. I mean, you even have one of the characters kind of turned to the dark side for a while, so to speak.
And there's redeemed.
Yep.
Not quite.
Well, not redeemed, but finally realizes, he's basically got made a fool of.
Guy, I am your father. What?
But guys speak Beaver, you speak of Leon.
Yeah.
I mean, I know one of the reasons this game is really, really frowned upon by most Final Fantasy fans is the combat system, or rather, I should say the leveling system has been tinkered with really, really badly in this one. I mean, the first game was pretty simple. You fight enemies, you level up, your stats go up. It's simple, it's clean, it's nice. Then this game comes along and it tries to do something different. I'll give it props for that. Basically, if you punch with your fist or you swing a sword, your skill in that particular thing will go up. But you can obviously... it's the same with things. You need to get hit to increase your defense. You need to use magic in order to increase that spell and your magic overall. It's a real pain in the ass in terms of actually just progressing your stats. And I really think it's the biggest downfall of Final Fantasy II, unfortunately.
Especially in the original NES versions and the PS1 version, both easy type and original type in PS1, because for every level up, you had to use whatever weapon, whatever spell, 100 times. And while there was a bug that helped mitigate that, it was still an absolute pain for grinding. So the GBA and PSP versions finally fixed that and made it a lot better. But in terms of the combat system overall, it never saw the light of day in another Final Fantasy, but it created the spin-off series into the Saga games that still utilize that to a much better extent.
Nova?
Yeah, it's definitely wrote with the whole system thing. A perfect example is the current file I have. My character's hit points and maybe to some extent MP are way ahead of their magic.
But if you know how to break the system, you can power level your characters at the very beginning and just curb stomp the rest of the game.
Unfortunately, power leveling still takes a long time, though.
Doing at this point, although I haven't finished the game yet.
Unless, I mean, I think, like I said, unfortunately, it is the gameplay that's the biggest downfall. Sorry, Play. It sounds like you want to say something.
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
No comments on Maria or Layla or Hilda or the Lamia Queen even.
I would like to get some pictures.
Then go look for some pictures, you lazy prick.
I am sorry.
Again, I assume that I know the GBA version didn't actually remove the system or remove the grinding bug as we talked about a minute ago. Did the PSP version or anything else maybe swap it to just more of a traditional level up system by any chance?
No, PSP version was built on top of the GBA version, just like number one. Added another full series of bonus dungeons, which were better than the PSP remakes of ones, but overall, it's kind of interesting because of course, the GBA version added the Rebirth of Light, which is a kind of a pro.
I love that story. I thought it was a really good extra piece on the end where he plays all the fallen party members.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember I only played for that once. It's something I'm actually going to do when I get to the Let's Play, but it was just nice to be able to play as them again. But some of them, because I knew they were going to die, I didn't level them up, so I was really underpowered for that first section. It was a pain to get through the cave at the beginning. But again, this is an old game. I assume nobody here is particularly a big fan of 2.
That's the case of I like it for what it is, but yeah, I can see why they didn't stick with that formula for further Final Fantasies.
Yeah, it makes sense. Okay, I suppose we're powering through this actually a lot quicker than I expected. We'll move on to Final Fantasy III. I will say this right now. First of all, obviously the last of the NES trilogy. This is actually the only one of the original 10 games I haven't touched, despite owning the Steam version. So I actually have nothing to say on this one.
This one is definitely the most difficult of the NES trilogy.
I've heard that.
Yeah, first played it on Famicom with a fan translation. To begin with, it really doesn't have much characterization. On the original, you just have 4 characters, just generic Onion Knights. You name them. They all start off, hey, we fell into a cave. Oh, we found the water crystal. Here's your job system. Go out and play with it. However, a lot of the jobs are absolute crap. So you got to use these if you want to hope to get anywhere. Oh, and lots of grinding, even more than 1 and 2.
Ooh, I'm glad I haven't played it yet.
Unfortunately, the DS, PSP, and Steam versions fixed a lot. They overall made it well, easier in some senses, harder in others. There's still some bosses that'll wreck your shit if you're not careful. But the biggest thing that the remakes did was they gave the heroes actual personalities.
Well, here's the thing, and I might be wrong here. I heard not a rumor, but I think I read somewhere that wasn't 3 originally meant to be like a reimagining of 1 or something like that.
Yes, you can see the influences.
Makes
But
sense.
3 is the one that first introduced the job system as we know it today. You switch jobs and you gain job levels, but it wasn't until 5 and later where you learned skills from your job levels. So you just kind of changed the jobs to what they needed to be at the time. There was a problem though, because when you changed jobs, you kind of had a transition period where your stats were cut down by about 1/3 for a certain number of battles, and that was one feature that a lot of people were glad they got rid of.
Yeah.
That makes sense. What about you, Nova? Any thoughts and opinions on
I
FF3?
have not actually played FF3 itself. The only thing I know about FF3 were from other Final Fantasy games. Well, my mobile game, I have Luneth, who's a character in FF3, and Rafia as well, 2 of the 4 heroes. And then also the Cloud of Darkness, which is the end villain in that game, as units in my mobile game. For
Now,
a while I was playing it with them, but then they've been kicked out because I had better party members from other places.
now I will give. I know I haven't played it, but I do know enough. By the way, I've just got a message from Mark. He'll be here soon. The one thing I do know is obviously it went back to the normal leveling system from 1 to an extent, because they actually introduced a job system, didn't they, in this?
Yep.
And to make it clear, the job system, basically your characters are no longer assigned to one role. Like, there's not one black mage, there's not one white mage and all that. You can swap roles to each character, so everybody can try everything out. And you can make a party with a bunch of different ones. There's actually a bunch of new characters. There's a bunch of new classes, if I recall, in this one as well, wasn't there? There was things like Blue Mage and stuff, I think.
Blue Mage is not until 5.
Oh, is it not till 5? Oh, I know there's a couple of new ones here. I probably should have got some kind of I probably should have done my research for this before I started, shouldn't I? But whatever.
Let's see. You got fighter, monk, white mage, black mage, red mage, knight, scholar, a Viking.
Oh, nice.
Renamed pirate. Another one. Geomancer, dragoon, dark knights, sage, ninja. Devout, Magus, and I'm forgetting a couple, but...
I was going to say, are you coming up with all that off the top of your head?
I am.
That is impressive. Yeah, I'm going to go through the Wikipedia, the Wikia pages as well.
Summoner was introduced in 3, too.
I'm just looking at the females, so...
There's not many in 3 either, to be fair, dude.
Yeah.
In 3, you have Princess Sarah, you have Refia in the remakes, and Sid's wife.
I'm looking at Refia.
Of course you are.
I hit it. Yes.
Oh,
Well,
alright.
even though it was meant to be genderless, a Cloud of Darkness supposedly turned into female.
Yeah, and speaking of the Cloud of Darkness, 3 actually has a really good plot overall, but the main villain is an idiot. He said, "Oh, I was given the gift of mortality, so I'm going to freeze time, so I'm not going to die."
Oh yes, Zande.
Yeah, well, he does that, and misusing the crystal's power summons the power of the void, so the Cloud of Darkness comes in to destroy everything. The very end introduces a thing I really wish they had done in either kind of a prequel or in a future game, because previous to Final Fantasy III, the Warriors of Darkness saved the world from the Cloud of Light. Showing that being light or darkness isn't inherently good or evil.
Oh yeah, because it was all about balance or something, wasn't it?
Yep.
Well.
There is one little...
Da 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 da.
Well, hi, Mark.
Well,
We both
Jesus
came in
Christ.
at like the exact same time.
That was a photo finish right there between Mark and NJ. I don't know who got it here first. Alright, so
Actually,
Yes.
MJ did.
What did not?
On my end,
I don't know. I don't know what happened to I don't know.
Okay, no problem. Well, anyway, to introduce everybody...
They're done with baseball and they're racing apparently.
Fair enough. Introducing our 2 new contestants, I guess we got Sexy Radio Voice, NovemberJoy.
Are we supposed to be watching something?
No.
No.
It's just a discussion, dude. And we have also the dark horse of racing, level 27, Marker Man.
Yeah, I actually have an interesting opinion of Final Fantasy. What was
Well-
the original ones? I don't know. Lately, it's not. I don't know if it goes that route. It's scary for children.
Fair enough. I actually need to turn you down because you're quite loud. Actually, we're just about to finish with FF3, but why don't you tell us, like, I asked these guys earlier as well, what was your introduction to Final Fantasy like? What was your first experience with the series?
The one game when I was really little, the one game I was afraid of, my dad was the one who played it. But, on that note, I'm the one who beat that file he started, so...
On which one?
Which one?
FF1.
Oh, FF1? Oh, jeez. Like, NES version as well?
To be fair, when the enemies have pupilless eyes and you have that version of the battle theme, do you blame me as a child?
What was it, the NES theme?
The NES version of the battle theme. It's like it's creeping up on you.
Fair enough. What about you,
None of the
NJ?
Can't do singing once it started.
So I was trying to like jump in on this theme, trying to scare you with the theme or something. Like, what the heck is that?
Because it's not scary at all.
I mean, it's just the childhood trauma.
To be fair, I mean, a lot of people have trauma from the Sonic drowning music for some reason.
It doesn't matter why, it's the way it was, and for what it's worth, I'm the one who beat the game. So...
Being the first Final Fantasy NES is not anything to scoff at, dude. It's not exactly the easiest thing in the world to do.
No. From where I started,
Oh.
from my first impression to that, is what I'm going for.
Fair enough. Anyway, NJ, what about you? What was your first experience with Final Fantasy?
The very first experience I actually remember was Final Fantasy VI, just messing around a little bit with the early stages of the game, because I was not particularly good at RPGs and couldn't get too far, and also messing around with my dad's file, which... I deleted his file that had like every character like almost max level in the World of Ruin. So yeah, he was.
I did the same to my brother by accident. You're not alone.
I messed around a lot with his save file that he played up decently far, but I don't think I ever got past the floating continent as a little child. My first experience that I actually got through and beat was, I think, Final Fantasy IV Advance.
Fair enough. Speaking of 4, that's a very good segue, because it's time for the Battle of the Waifus as we move on to Final Fantasy IV.
Here we go.
Ready up?
It's
Yeah, I know.
time.
I think everybody and their mothers know she's your waifu, dude.
God damn it.
Alright, so I think it's fair to say most of the people in here, minus Opie, of course, have played Final Fantasy IV, or at least some version of the game.
Now, the funny thing is, I mentioned having played every version of the previous games up until now. FF4 is the only one where I have not played a version of it, and that was the PS1 version.
And that's actually the version
That surprises me.
That's one of the versions I grew up with, because I actually still own it on disc.
So was I the only idiot who made the DS version the first time they played 4?
I wouldn't call you an idiot.
Sounds like it.
Well,
Among this
I
group,
went for
sounds
the
like
hard. I went for the most difficult version, dude.
I actually still have
Dyne and Paris were debating about that at one point.
What's there to debate about? It is the most
There
difficult
was
version.
one other that rivaled it for a completely different... It was hard for a completely different reason. I think Dyne said that one countered what people originally did.
Well, there is a few of that that came across, because I had some of that issues when we actually raced.
Then again, one of the guys
FF4.
here is the one who said that, so...
I'm trying to recall that conversation.
It's the only video from that FF4 LP Gold was in that's worth it. Because we were trolling
Oh,
him for
yeah,
disco
part
dancing
6.
all to run.
Let's not talk about those Let's Plays.
That's what we said. Why are you dancing instead of running?
Yeah, I know which one you're from. Part 6, because you guys had a cult com that one.
Oh, that fucking Let's
That's
Play.
the only one that was
Was
worth it.
Yeah,
was that
it
as early
was.
as Part 6? Huh.
But,
Or it was a later part,
but,
that co-commentary.
Yeah, let's try not to go too off topic with this, guys. We're already 30 minutes in. We're only on Final Fantasy IV. I mean, I assume everybody here is a big fan of this game. Always played it at least.
4?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah.
You
4's
like
the
the
easiest one to
different
redo.
I think.
Because it
Sorry.
feels the shortest.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that, actually.
And you don't have to think, like, if the first one you get to pick, like, you have to pick a team, and you can like, oh, do I approach it this way or that way? This one, no, you don't do any of that. You just jump in and go.
Well, that's
Especially since I had the advanced versions, about the only one I played. So since it's portable, it was really good for that compared to the others.
I really like the story. I got I got the DS version, so I got like 3D graphics and voice acting. So I was able to really enjoy the story for what it was, and the characters were even better because they had voices.
Yeah, each version could be its own discussion, of course, because, of course, in US we got a port of the Easy Type, or rather, an easier version of Easy Type, because when it first released in Japan, that released with Hard Type, they said, "Oh, the Americans aren't going to be able to beat this. We'll give them a super easy version," and then that was brought back to Japan as Easy Type, but with a lot of the features dummied out of the US version restored.
I got a good question for you guys for this one. Who's your favorite character from 4, or playable character?
Rydia.
Rydia, yeah.
Sid.
Oh, we got somebody going with Sid here, so it's not a unanimous decision anyway.
At least for the Game Boy Advance version, I'd probably put Kane there.
I'm not talking gameplay wise, dude. I'm talking for like character and story.
Like character wise.
Yeah.
Oh, then Sid definitely. Gameplay,
Okay,
he sucks.
Alright, at least partially I was thinking game.
He takes down a thing while falling down a cliff and survives.
Oh, Sid's got the fucking power of comic book heroes. He can just come back to
the
life whenever he
underworld.
wants.
Oh yeah, he throws.
He
the
survives
bomb
his own
down.
suicide bombing.
Yeah.
And he can 9,999 those stupid robot faces at the final area.
To be fair, there's only one character in 4 or protagonist who actually can be in the party who doesn't come back to life. So
Right.
after killing themselves, essentially, you know, it's basically like fucking fairy tale
So you're not
anime in
telling
terms
us.
of that.
Who it is?
Tell
You're
her.
not telling us who it is.
I'm not telling you anything.
Damn it.
I wonder how.
The old
Goonie
man-
guard.
Yeah, the old man overexerts himself, casts a spell, he doesn't have enough MP for, and he just dies. How tellable.
Tell me about it.
Let's...
I wonder how long before.
Spooky Bard.
What the flip? Oh. Okay,
Oh God, I forgot about Edward. The worst part of 4. Let's shit on Edward for a while. Why not? How useless is he?
The only interesting thing I found was this Psycho Edward glitch in Nintendo Power Ones. It's barely useful. Barely.
Most of the things that would actually be useful against, you usually have like black.
He does
Horse.
extra damage. He can use items, and I got nothing beyond that.
Well, the thing about Edward is the only way to make him useful is to glitch yourself into Mist Village, visit the weapon shop, and buy a dancing dagger, because he can equip it and use it as an item. But only speedrunners really do that.
Because the glitch was like, he has this thing where he does the hide thing, but you put him in Berserk, but he keeps attacking, but he'll never get targeted unless he's the only one left.
That's actually done in some free enterprise runs under specific circumstances, but
I know GBA can do that. It's still not that useful, because if everyone else dies, it wears off.
yep.
I
Yeah,
assume. Sorry.
GBA version actually introduced something that had been done in 6, but was the first time seen in 4. The ability to switch your party members, even if it's not until the end of the game, and added content to make those members viable for endgame.
Oh, okay. Right.
But
Nice.
otherwise, you're usually stuck with the main 5 at the end, including in the DS version.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
the DS version, you can't change them.
Uh-huh. They were all at the moon, that last tower thing where you got the moon whale
Yeah, Tower of Prayers.
machine.
I assume everybody's in agreement, though. Even if we can't agree on who's the best character, we all agree Edward's the worst.
Yeah.
He's the worst in
It was-
terms of battle.
Oh,
But
definitely.
I
I'm
will
not
say,
denying
I
that.
will say, at least in the sequel, he takes a serious level in badass.
I say his character's okay. In battle, he's the worst character by far. Even
The
worse
guy
than
has
Valor,
hide as a fucking ability, for Christ's sake.
which he automatically uses whenever he's low on HP, making him almost worthless.
And it's not like he can hide in plain sight either.
But actually, apparently they only for the the worst part is Turbo. But for the DS version, they actually buffed Edward. They made his sing ability more useful, and they made that one like salve ability that lets him use an item on every entire party like about 1,000 times more useful than the regular version. Regular version uses one potion on the entire party to restore about 10 HP. In the DS version, you just use one item on the entire use like one item like 5 times on the entire party or something like that.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing, though.
Pass that ability on others.
I was gonna say, isn't Edward only in the party for like the shortest amount of time of all the characters?
I think so.
That's the nice thing about the augment system in 4DS.
Yeah.
Let's see. Also, DS is the one where I see a lot of screenshots where Kane has Cry.
Yep.
He sees that. He does that when he sees Cecil and Rosa making out.
2 sprites, 1 tile.
Or you could do this route. He's so
I like that.
he does that inside all the time.
Oh Christ.
Or both.
I forgot about.
I've never heard that saying. I'm gonna steal that from you, Dan, just for future reference.
I saw it from the Free Enterprise emote I just posted. No, those 2 moments in the game got some good laughs in my Let's Play of ROM Hack recently. So.
I mean, I think this is probably the first game we can say. Does anybody have like a favorite? I mean, we didn't do it before because the original NES trilogy aren't the best. Does anybody have like a favorite moment from FF4? Because I was going to say the exact same thing actually. That and Cecil becoming a paladin is pretty cool.
When Meridian matures.
Let me think.
Yeah, say beside those mentioned, there's also
not getting turned into frogs in the secret dungeons.
That's always
That's one of them.
Cecil finding out later something about the game's main antagonist for most of the game.
Dude, the game's been out for like, what, 25 years? I think we can go with spoilers. No, probably 30 years. I think spoilers are okay.
Aerith dies!
No.
What? No! No!
Oh my god, I it's a spoiler even to me.
Basically, yeah, Golbez is Cecil.
It's like a fucking episode of Jerry Springer or something.
Yeah, I really like.
Whoa, that was a moment sort of thing.
I didn't really like that part of the game. I think maybe part of it might have been because as a kid I had ridiculous amounts of trouble with it. But yeah, finally being able to see that and getting that kind of story development afterwards made it feel so much better.
True. I suppose we could move on to the next game. I did say we were going to do direct sequels. I have no experience with 4's direct sequel, though, the After Years.
Oh, wait. There's one thing about 4. There's one more thing about 4 I want to bring up.
Go
what
ahead,
the flip is Zeramus? What in the 7 hells is Zeramus?
Zeromus is basically one of those villains who is the amalgam of hatred and collected together with Zemus as his focal point. So,
because like when you look at his final form, it's like, what the flip am I looking at?
Okay.
I
thought you could be playing the randomizers, and then you could really be asking what he becomes when you see what Dyne has to
the
fight.
problem is he's more coherent in those weird forms. He's just a red blob mess of blue spots on it, and bones and stuff.
I think we can all agree.
You can also play the easy game version where he's a little bit more coherent, but he also has it as a lady, as like a giant penis. I get the part.
Well, that's in the the finale of the
easy type version, or the bonus,
the extra,
or the bonus, and also the
extra of GBA, the final secret boss.
Yeah. Little known fact: the Zeroma sprite is different in the Japanese easy type, but that was, and as NJ alluded to, it was used in the bonus dungeon of the GBA version.
I also had a weird theory in my head that each final boss resembled the last one to some degree somehow, and then or something like that. I don't know.
I think we can all agree though with Final Fantasy, the first really awesome Final Fantasy game, right?
Yeah, I'd still put it very high up there on the rankings.
Alright, so can we move on to the After Years now?
Well, before that, you have the interlude, which the less said the better, but it bridges the main game and the After Years.
Wait, what is the interlude? I haven't heard
heard. I haven't heard of it either.
I haven't heard of this.
The interlude is only available on the PSP version, Final Fantasy IV: The Complete Collection. It takes place at least a year after the main series. They find out Yang and his wife are going to have a daughter. Rosa is pregnant with her and Cecil's child. Someone who looks like Rydia is causing trouble, so you basically have to cross over Mount Hobbs. You go back to the underworld. You got to do the sealed cave again,
Oh,
and the Tower of Babel.
Everyone's favorite dungeons.
Yay. What about the After Years, though? Because that was the direct sequel, after all. I have
still
no
have to beat
experience with
that.
it.
I still have to find the time to go sit down and beat that.
Yeah, the After Years is interesting because, of course, it was initially released as a mobile game with one chapter per month. So it was designed for that. So each character has a tale that lasts about probably no more than 5 hours. And then a challenge dungeon, which basically says, hey, beat this several times, get to max level, get all the good items from this challenge dungeon. You're going to need it.
I mean, I've spoken with you a few times about the After Years Dying, because I've never played it, but I was always looking into it. You never really thought much of it from our conversations about it in the past.
Well, it's okay. The thing is, the plot is more or less just a retread of the original. It starts off with Cecil and Rosa's son, Theodore, taking the test to become a member of the Red Wings. And after he passes it, his airship is attacked. He becomes a lone survivor, crashes near Mysidia, needs to find his way home. He runs into a guy who is totally not Kane, who helps him out. And so he's trying to find his way home. Baron Castle is attacked. Something happens to Cecil. He just kind of disappears. A green-haired girl who looks kind of like Rydia seems to be behind it all. Rydia herself has a tale that starts off underground. She meets up with Luca of the Dwarf Kingdom to kind of investigate what's going on and try and meet up with everybody. Edge has his tale where he sits around doing nothing while all his subordinates do the work for the most part until it comes back to him. Yang, more or less the same. He investigates a meteor strike near Fabul. His daughter wants to train with him. He says, no, you're too arrogant. So she has to prove herself. Let's see. Porum's tale, she's in Mysidia, dealing with things that pop up. Palom's tale, he is training a new kind of red mage who wants to learn black magic from Troya. And the best of all, Lunarian's tale, you get Fusoya and Golbez, and they're the ones who actually get the overall plot going, because they're the only ones who can actually fight back against the mysterious green-haired girl.
Yeah.
And then they all kind of come back together. Oh, and yeah, I will give Edward props. Again, takes a level in badass. He basically manages to spy on Cecil under his nose when Cecil is brainwashed. He basically stands down evil Kane, turns a Cardinalius Signet back against him, and basically goes solo to save his quote-unquote new love interest, who everybody hates because she's the worst character in the game. So a lot of things going on. They all come together in the end. The problem is, so much is just rehashed from the original game. Same plot situations, same dungeons. You go through the underground waterway in 3 different scenarios. You only go through the sealed cave again once, not counting interlude. But yeah, you're gonna hate the underground waterway by the time you're done with it.
Huh.
Fair enough. I assume nobody else here has actually played the After Years.
I've beaten the first chapter. I started 2 others.
Oh, fair
and
enough.
That's about it.
What's your opinions then on the
First
sequel?
chapter is easy as pie, although I was the weird thing with the Edward thing, with the Kane and Edward thing, you're playing as Kane trying to kill Edward. You can't. There's no other way out of that. You have to kill him. If you kill yourself, you lose.
Okay.
But a lot of people.
If you're trying to do the thing that seems like the good guy thing, you lose.
It's basically just, playing to the player's fantasy of wanting to kill Edward anyway, so...
Well, a couple of other things. It introduced a system, 2 systems, combination attacks called bands. You search for combinations that can unleash some really cool attacks like that. And the one that everyone hates is the phase of the moon. Depending on what the phase of the moon is in, some attacks will be strengthened, others will be weakened. It changes every time you rest or every half hour in-game. So it can screw you as much as help you.
The game moons us. Basically, right?
But the game does give one of the most awesome things any Final Fantasy IV fan could ever hope for. Edge can fight Rubicante one-on-one.
That was the guy that killed his parents,
Okay.
right?
Yep. Well,
Yes.
his subordinate killed his parents, but Edge considered Rubicante his mortal enemy still. But you can also have Edge kill the guy who killed his parents.
Okay then.
I'm totally cool with that.
I mean, it sounds like with the after years, they did a few things right, but would you recommend the game if you liked 4? I suppose that's what I'm trying to ask.
See, I would to play through at least once. Again, it was made for segmented
4
releases,
fans.
so yeah, you do kind of have to do the challenge dungeons and grind everyone to full level on each chapter. But the interesting thing is the main characters are really Theodore, Kane, Rydia, and Edge. Cecil and Rosa really have nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Basically, given when they find Cecil, he's like, completely in like Nowhereville. Doesn't even
And-
it's because he's been messed up by the
And
mysterious.
I'd say Golbez is the 5th main character. You
Oh
don't even
yeah, yeah,
go up
that's
until
true.
later.
Yep.
Go Bez.
Did you say it got more interesting though? Oh.
What?
What?
Did you say Cecil got more interesting though? As a game mechanics wise though, Dyne?
Not really.
Because he was just a fighter paladin thing. By the end of the 4, it was pretty boring. I
Yeah,
prefer the Dark Knight version.
He pretty much stays the same.
Oh, never
Yeah,
mind.
but it's interesting because there's a difference between him and Kane, because of course Kane was training on ordeals to expunge his darkness, and his path differed from Cecil's in that he comes to accept his past self, whereas Cecil cast it off, and that comes back to haunt him later, and can have drastic consequences if you're not set up properly.
Right.
Okay.
Alright. Is that 4 and the sequel's done? By the looks of it, yeah. I think we spent nearly half an hour talking about 4 there. Alright,
There's still a lot more we could have touched, but
yeah, we're trying to get through the main series anyway. Moving straight on to a game that actually did not get released for a long time, actually, as well. Final Fantasy V, for the Super Nintendo, Super Famicom, anyway. I have a little bit of experience with the GBA version. I haven't played through the entire game, but I have to admit, I did enjoy the first couple hours of this one. I really liked the story, and especially I can't remember the character's name. It's been a while since I played. I like the female pirate captain.
Ferris.
Ferris, thank you. That was it. Ferris is awesome.
Yeah, and to showcase how young and unfamiliar with gaming tropes I
Sister
was,
Kun?
despite having played Metroid, I was actually surprised to find out Ferris was a woman when playing the Super NES fan translation.
I assume obviously this is going to be one that not everybody here has played. I'm thinking.
We know.
I played the GBA.
I played both of the main versions that were released in the U.S. I played the PS1 collection version with a horrible translation and also the Game Boy Advance version.
Yeah, I played the PS1 translation version, the GBA version.
Oh, so
I played
it's
every
just
version, including Steam.
it is just again Opie that's not played one of the games one of the versions. Then
Waifu's Lena, by the way.
I'm just looking at Ferris right now.
and the other one's Lena, like Dyne said. So you can be thinking about which one you want to pick as your waifu.
GBA. Among the GBA ones, I played the most. Okay, one is the only one I played normally. The others were GBA. 3 had to be DS, but it was among those. It was my favorite.
Obviously,
Gameplay wise.
I was gonna say gameplay wise. 4, I should have pointed this out. 4 went back to a normal mechanic system where everybody had a different class. 5 actually went back to the free version where it was a job class system where every character could have a different class. Oh, so everybody could have a different job. Sorry, instead of setting out.
Yeah, 5 is the one that took 3's job system and perfected, because everybody could switch jobs at any time. You learned different skills that could be applied to whenever you wanted, and when you mastered a job, it gave permanent stat boosts to
Abilities.
freelancer or mimic class. Yep.
And you could have a what's it? I'll remember eventually. Oh yeah, you could have a fight the knight with 2 swords if you wanted to.
Yep.
From the ninja class.
Yeah, the thing with 5 is the story is really hokey, but they didn't care much about writing the plot anyway. They just wanted something, hey, here's this story. We just want something that's going to carry our job system, because 5 is all about the gameplay.
Listen, I mean,
I think even the Game Boy Advance translation takes note of this. It makes lots of jokes about how dumb the next death is, how cliched he is and stuff. So,
but I think there's
plot
some
of 5
charm to that, though. I was just saying, I think there's some charm to that, though, where it's self-aware of the fact that it's basically a very stupid story. And I love moments with Ferris and all that, especially when they find that she's Ferris is actually a woman. Fucking hell, I thought it was hilarious. I actually think it gets a little bit. I think it gets forgotten a lot about sometimes 5, and I don't understand why, to be honest, because I think the story is actually pretty good for what it is.
I think the main reason is that
Actually, I think the story.
Sorry.
I think the story works well as for a game.
Oh yeah.
More than like a plot story. Like you go, do you notice how many locations you go to that are more or less, that are distinct enough from each other? In that place, you go to like a parallel world at one point, and then they get combined with the other world. Did I spoil that?
All because a tree.
Only really for me and Pie Dude.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. In terms of why it happens, plot-wise, it's kind of cliche. But in terms of playing a game and experiencing going there, it's entertaining. And it's facing the challenges. That's
if you
what I'm arguing about.
if you want an awesome moment from that one, definitely Gayloof's Last Stand.
Oh, he's the grandfather of what's her name, isn't he?
Yeah.
He makes Teller look like a weakling.
Yeah, I remember that being a massive
was an
thing.
awesome that game.
Well, okay, you die when you cast too much MP. Well, I can survive when I have no HP left. Take that.
Yeah.
But of course, there's the one insane man who grinded up to like level 99 and got every ability just to be able to survive that, and was disappointed when Galoof still died afterwards.
You can save Eris, I swear. Just grind it to this level. I think that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, I think obviously Teller's death in 4, it was a pretty good send-off, I thought, for the character. But then you look around at all the other plot armor the other characters have. I mean, Sid basically commits kamikaze and somehow manages to survive. So it kind of kills the whole Teller dying thing, in my opinion, at least a little bit. I think this is probably the first really well done death in Final Fantasy, if I'm being honest. At least of a major party member, anyway.
No, there are a few in 2 that are pretty good, but
Yeah, but they weren't like main party members that were always going to be there from start to finish.
True.
right.
As I said, personally, I don't actually have a lot to say about 5. I'm still basically playing this on and off every so often. I haven't gone very far, maybe about 4 or 5 hours into the game.
It's huge.
Yeah, the thing
I've
about
heard.
5, is it of course the most popular one for an annual series of races or just playthroughs called the 4-Job Fiesta.
I do watch that, actually.
There's one more thing about 5 I remember that might be one of the reasons people don't like it. It pulls more surprise. This is a really hard fight and going to kill you very likely than any other game I
Probably
played.
drive a lot of people nuts on this.
Yeah, very few of the boss fights
Omega
are straightforward
Shinryu.
in 5. They're more puzzle bosses than anything else in the series.
But they can still easily kill you.
Oh yes.
And don't let me started on the advanced versions, stronger version of the 2.
But yeah, I think most of the only real issues I had with that personally were with the final dungeon with one boss that counterattacks pretty much everything you do, and of course, the super boss that was literally hiding in a random unmarked chest.
Wait, the guy who counters everything you do? Which one was that? Apocalypse?
It was Twin Tanya, who counters everything you do with either Tidal Wave or Mega Flare. I ended up actually just breaking the fight by figuring out what makes him use Mega Flare, or using Carbuncle and then making him reflect Mega Flare on himself and over until he died.
Sometimes you have a lot of different kinds of attacks to use. I think there might be one that might not trigger it.
And that's actually the thing is that I don't like about the additional content on the GBA and mobile/Steam versions is the bonus dungeon. Yeah, they expect you to have mastered all the jobs, have all the abilities, because it's almost impossible otherwise. And they give you new jobs that are almost worthless.
A gladiator's finisher is useful.
that's about the only exception, and
Um,
it's crazy because
Excuse me.
you'll
of
have
course,
enough trouble.
well, the one you
you'll have enough
unlock
trouble
by
fi-
beating the dungeon can be useful too.
Unfortunately, by then you've pretty much done everything else. There's
Yeah.
no point in using it.
Alright.
Gladiator.
Anybody else have anything to say about 5?
Fuck Omega.
It's just
I'm thinking I'm gonna say.
Oh yeah, Omega does every nasty trick. He can even just erase a guy on your team.
He is, however, very weak against love songs.
There's no way to revive him when they're erased. They're technically
the-
considered dead.
Yeah, the only reason I was able to beat him in my challenge run earlier this year is because Lena had Spellblade and could mimic.
Spellblade, Thundaga, Spellblade, Rapid Fire is the usual. Twin Swords.
That's the most reliable way to beat Omega, but if you're doing a challenge run or 4-job Fiesta, you're almost guaranteed to not have the right setup.
So I think
Yeah.
before we move on, Opie, waifu from this, Varys or Lena?
No, it's Opie, it's Trial, the granddaughter.
And
Don't,
again, there's
don't
there
unleash
like a
the
lot of
beast.
naked women bosses you fight in this one
Why not unleash the
that are
beast?
just demons.
Oh yeah, the one that takes over
Dyne,
Lena's
can
body.
Dyne, can
that
you
The
tell me
dragon saves her
where
from.
that character is?
Oh,
Um,
Messalune, I think. Is it-
Well, just watch any later version of my Let's Play videos.
Alright, well, I
Yeah,
think...
part where he.
Sorry?
I was gonna say that, and the clip of the part where he voices
Okay,
X-Death and makes the puns and even trolls Opie in it.
The tree puns. Watch as I make bad puns and cast everything into the void!
Okay, people, you're gonna have
Are
to...
you tree? You would say that.
Let's go to 6.
Let's, everybody,
problem.
cover your ears, because I'm pretty sure I know what Dan's gonna do in a moment. Ladies and gentlemen... There we go. I was waiting for it. I even turned...
Wait a moment, I did so right away!
I even turned down the volume on my microphone, on my headset, then 'cause I knew it was coming.
I just partially took my headset off my
6.
ears. I can still hear it really well.
So
Oh,
okay, so we're on to
Christ.
7, right?
No, we're going to talk about 6. Don't even think about skipping over this, because this is one of my personal
No,
favorites
6
as
is
well.
going to be the grand finale. What are you talking about?
No, we're going in order, because I've got a bit of fucking... I can't help it. I have to go in order, otherwise my brain doesn't feel right. Why do you want to torture me? I'll just come right out and say this.
Why do I not?
I love... Well, yeah, I suppose. I love 6. I think it's honestly the best of the series so far. It has my favorite moment in Final Fantasy ever, and I despite the Let's Play I did, it's still been the worst Let's Play I've ever done. This is
You
still...
have not done. You were not the one who did Gold's Let's Play of it. It is
No.
not the worst FF6.
I
I'm
never
more
said
with you about that.
I never said it was the worst Final Fantasy VI Let's Play. I just said it's the worst Let's Play I've ever done.
Fair enough.
That was
Yeah,
my...
still
That
had
was,
the really funny opening in
6.
one part, though. I will say that.
we'll not get into Goals Let's Play of 6. It was horrendous. No offense, buddy, but it was. I suppose.
Boring.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
I suppose. Obviously, myself, I didn't play this until probably about 5 years ago. But I'm guessing some of you guys played this when you were really young.
Yep.
Later, when it first came out, it remains my favorite game of all time to this day.
GBA, so teenager years.
GBA as
for
well.
me.
Just FYI here.
Yeah, I played the 3 US version back when it came out. I used to rent it and played the FF6 Advanced version.
And actually, I have not yet played the mobile or Steam version of this because I've been playing ROM hacks of it instead.
I mean, I've seen like some of the graphical updates and stuff for Steam with like even not just this one, but Final Fantasy V as well. They look quite bad. I mean,
You
there's
get
not-
used to them in all
I
honesty.
guess, but like in like terms of first impressions, it really doesn't leave a good first impression at all.
Yeah.
It looks really kind of ugly, if I'm going to be honest.
Well-
I think of all the Final Fantasy games. I mean, I love the fact we're getting a 7 remake, and we'll get to that in a bit. I would love some kind of update, like even just if it was a 4DS version remake of this as well. I want a 3D remake of 6 so bad. I want the characters to have voices and all that. I would love to see that at some point. I said that the only version I've played of this is the GBA version. But can I even ask who everybody's favorite character is? Because there's a lot of really good characters.
Don't make me choose between Terra and Celeste.
I mean, I'm right there with you, but I mean, personally, I'd go with Celeste. I love Terra, but I do like Celeste a bit more. But they're not even just the only good characters. I mean, you got the
Sabin.
King, you got Sabin,
and
you
your-
got
Locke.
I like
Locke.
Locke.
I can't even fucking remember. There's so many that's good. I mean,
Edge.
No, that's 4.
Are we counting? No. Wait. No, Shadow.
Shadow. Okay.
I
Yeah,
really
Shadow.
actually-
Yep.
I actually
You've
like
got
Shadow.
Realm and Strago.
There's also Go-Go and that Yeti guy. If you
Yeah.
want to go
Maro.
gameplay wise.
what was the
Yeah.
what was the Moogle's name? Mog.
Mog.
Yeah, that was it.
Mog.
Everyone said it at the same time.
Mog.
I-
Mog smash.
All right, so I can't remember what everybody said. All right, we'll just go in order of the people in the call. I guess my favorite character is Celeste. Dyne.
Again, in terms of waifu, definitely a tie between Terra and Celeste. Favorite character overall, I have to say Locke.
Mark.
Lock.
Okay. NJ.
Honestly, I think it might end up being Shadow, just because as if you actually know like his whole backstory and stuff.
Who?
Shadow, I'm gonna put it.
Opie, I know you haven't played. Who's your favorite waifu?
Can I, why have one when you can have them both? Can I have both?
You get neither.
You got
God,
Opie gets Realm.
Yeah, she's more his age range.
Opie tried to cheat.
Opie just Opie
How's he
just
spell her?
Realm is in RELM. I think that's how they spell it in the game.
Yep, she is 10 years old.
Yeah, definitely your
I was
target
actually look-
your target
I was
audience.
actually look- I was actually looking at her when you were talking
She's
about.
pretty good at Ultima. So,
She's actually got some
also-
really good abilities.
She can also break the basic laws of reality by drawing things incorrectly.
But before we go into Realm, we've got one more person to ask. Nova, favorite character.
Say my favorite female game last, but favorite character, probably say Shadow.
Fair enough. Alright, can we just talk about some of the really incredible abilities these characters have in the game? Because, like, Celeste's, what's that, again, it's been a while since I played. Runic is fucking awesome. That thing saved my ass so often during my first Let's Play. Sorry, my first playthrough of the game. That thing is the reason why I beat, that's the reason I beat
sorry.
Kefka on the first attempt.
Oh wait, you want best ability? Best abilities?
No,
Wait,
I'm not talking best abilities,
Edgar.
just best abilities you like, the abilities you love from the game.
Chainsaw!
My personal favorite Ava was Sabin. As long as you can learn his button combinations, unlike Edgar's chainsaw, Sabin can kill things pretty much 100% of the time, whereas the chainsaw randomly he'll waste his turn trying to insta kill something which never works.
Can we just talk about the fact that Sabin can motherfucking suplex a train?
I was going to say the same thing in this voice, but you cut me off.
What do you think?
Yeah, but
Then again, auto crossbow kills like everything when you first get
especially early game as well.
everything until the
He's
boss is
really good.
And that's the thing about Edgar's chainsaw is you don't need it because you got the drill.
The chainsaw is more powerful when it works,
Eh,
But it wouldn't work.
and you can get the chainsaw earlier. I think.
Nope. You can get the drill first.
And then there's also
I haven't played
all
it
those
enough.
other tools which if you're not interested in direct damage, they can do interesting things like confuse all enemies, deal poison elemental damage, and poison all enemies, etc. If you feel like it.
Even his
I
flash,
don't
which
need to use
does
either
magical
because
damage.
auto crossbow usually does the trick.
true.
Except against flans or invisible enemies.
Can I just say the one part? I mean, we're probably going to be praising 6 quite a bit here, but the one aspect of 6 I really can't stand is the fucking Tower of Magi.
Oh, yes.
I hate that place so much.
Meh.
Here's the thing.
Well, I don't
I
care.
could. I eventually understood what I was supposed to do there. I was able to get up the tower. I detest the fact that that boss at the top of the tower has basically a coded attack where your entire party is going to be wiped out. So you need to make sure you've got a auto
Re-raise.
life or something like that. Yeah, I
Yep.
hated that because I got through the boss. I was doing so well. Finally did it, and no, the game just decided to give me a middle finger and say, no, you're not going to have this.
Is that the one where you can destroy his MP and he can't do it?
It
I
takes a
don't
while. He's got a
know.
lot of MP.
He has like 50. I checked his stats of the GBA version. He has like 50,000.
I'm guessing that's quite high for 6.
Oh, it's not like the dragon fights in the other one. It's like one of the dragons, you have to destroy his MP to kill him.
In the GBA version.
Yeah, yeah.
I gotta ask, obviously that's the thing I don't like. Is there anything anybody else doesn't like about 6?
6. Teaching Gao his abilities is a pain.
Yeah,
Oh, you
that
can-
can
you
be
can only do it
very
in one
tedious.
You can only do it in
Just
one
get,
place.
just get
can you?
Stray Cat. You're carried through the whole game with Gal.
Hmm.
Pretty,
That
pretty
one
much Go will always end up either pathetically underleveled, underpowered, like he did in my game, where he's like level 26, wherever else is at least 40, or he'll end up ludicrously overpowered and able to take down literally anything in the game. The game with about one of a dozen ultra game-breaking abilities.
I
are
know
you
one
got
thing I don't
Gao.
like about it. I know something I don't like about it.
Go for it.
The perspective you take from flying the airship.
Oh, the Mode 7 stuff.
That mode 7, yo.
I could not find a Phoenix Cave until I looked it up online.
Do you know what? You're
I
saying
think
this.
if it wasn't like that, I probably could have found it sooner.
You're saying this actually is bringing it back. I think I had similar problems once I got the airship.
And it's like,
Yeah,
you
the thing-
go on the airship. I know exactly where I'm going. Where is it now? It's in a different direction.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, obviously it's the first time. I think obviously obviously all the remakes of 4 and 5 obviously had that that perspective put in them as well for the airships. But originally this would have been the
No.
first time.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, in the remakes they did. I know for a fact they did in.
GBA 5? No, GBA 5 was the same as it was in 1.
Which one am I thinking of then?
Only
I-
GBA 6 did this. I think.
Are you sure?
Yeah!
I need to go back and try the games. I could swear they changed the perspective in.
No, 6 is the
newest
one where
update.
you get, like, you have. 6 has not only an airship, but a submarine that you can lift.
Yeah,
from
yeah,
the
I know
airship.
that. What I'm talking about the Mode 7 stuff.
Yeah, that's only in 6.
I knew it was the only ship for original. I could have swore that the remakes though of some of the others changed it so it had Mode 7 as well.
Not even 3 does that. 3 you can go diagonally.
I haven't played 3, so I don't know, but I
Yeah,
played the
I'd say
DS4.
one-
Oh well,
I'd say
I
one thing from 6 that I
Maybe
would
DS4 did it. I don't know. Probably not.
One thing I am gonna try to bring up that I really didn't like about Final Fantasy VI, trying to fight Doomgaze. See, if you don't want to fight him, he'll find you, and he can kick your ass.
Yeah, I was
if you're
actually
not
going to
prepared.
mention that.
Oh,
And if you do want to fight him, you have to fly all around the map and pray to God that you'll eventually find him.
Yeah, the mechanics of Doomgaze is he is set on a random point every time you enter the world map, and it's a fairly small region. But yeah, you just have to fly it and find where it is. Speedrunners are able to RNG manipulate, but otherwise, just pray you don't run into them before you're ready.
Did anybody?
Yeah, but first you have to go to the burned tower. Wait, wrong game.
Did anybody?
Yeah.
Sorry, carry on, Nova.
Yeah, if you didn't want to fight him, you pretty much had to.
Sorry, I didn't catch
Right.
that. You're cutting out.
It's
buddy.
also optional, as I recall.
Yep.
Yeah, well, he is optional.
All he guards is
Yeah,
Bahamut.
anytime you were trying to avoid him, you had to save it, and then otherwise, in case you run into him and then he kills you, it's like, oh, great. Oh yeah, another thing. This is not what I didn't like, but more of a thing that was introduced in this game that kind of reappeared in other Final Fantasy games later on in different capacity. The Magicite system, where you learn skills.
I love the Magicite system in 6, though. I think it's great.
Yep.
Takes a while.
Easiest way to break it that's not Edgar's tools.
What are these? I mean, I personally didn't do much of it, but what's everybody's opinion on the Coliseum or whatever it was called?
That is the worst thing in the game.
What was that again?
It
The
could
Coliseum.
Be good.
Wait, is that where like Orthos or Ultros? What? works at the end by the end of the game.
Yeah.
Yep, him and his sidekick, Mr. Chupon or Typhoon.
So which one's the official name?
Ultros.
Okay, because I know I've seen both.
Yeah, they changed it to Orthos for a while. Fans complained. They decided, okay, we'll stick with Ultros.
Or as I like to call it, the hentai tentacle monster. But
He does want to get
again,
tentacles
he's a
in that era.
goofball. He's also a goofball villain.
Yeah.
he also
Fight him
likes
in the
little girls.
sky.
Oh wait, it's Opie in monster form. I just realized he likes little girls.
Damn it.
Well, he gets
Yeah,
killed
well-
by her.
Yeah, little girl actually schools him.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, Rome draws his
Basically,
picture.
paints another tentacle, and the tentacle kills him.
You
God damn.
actually, I would say, Opie, just for Realm, you would need to play 6 at some point. But
I'll eventually play a Final Fantasy game.
and then he breaks
Yeah,
out Mystic
Ultros
Quest or something like that.
Probably
Hey, Mystic Quest is a good game.
Probably be something on my
Keep telling
bucket
yourself that.
list, man. A Final Fantasy.
I hate to do this because there's so many good parts, but come on, guys. I mean, so we talk about some of our favorite moments from 6, because I know what is the best moment in my opinion, but I'll see if anybody else agrees with me on that. Because I can tell you right now, Celeste's suicide scene is still the most heart-wrenching thing I've seen in a video game.
I've seen something that wrenched my heart a lot more, but it'd be spoiling a totally different game if I talked about it, so I'm not going to talk about it.
I'll say this.
What, Aerith dies?
I'll say this. Celeste's suicide scene and her whole heartbreaking, obviously, if Sid dies, which is pretty much been classified as canon, is the only time I think I've teared up from a sprite-based game. I've done it a few times with 3D stuff. I've never actually cried. I've always teared up, but this is the only time this has ever happened with a sprite-based game, and I think it's honestly the most perfectly done serious scene in any game I've seen. That's why I get such high praise from me.
Personally, there was at least one moment from Undertale that actually gave me that same feeling. And one moment from actually Persona 3 that gave me a similar feeling, but I'm gonna keep those both unspoiled for anyone listening.
I mean, come on, guys. It's 6. You must have some favorite moments.
No, for the longest time, I did not like the opera, but that changed as I got older.
Okay, he's getting... I'm just gonna kick him out of this call for not liking the
Don't you
opera.
dare do that!
No, this is past self.
Oh, fair enough, fair
It's
enough.
past self.
Can I kick past Dyne out?
That jumped the gun here.
Now, yeah, if you guys have seen my Let's Play of the Eternal Crystals,
That was the mod
That-
you did earlier this year, wasn't it? Or late
No,
last year?
that was the first mod I did.
Oh.
No, I did everything I could to make that opera segment the best thing I've ever done in a live stream.
What did you first?
That is part 6 of that Let's Play. I inserted the live version of that opera into the game.
Oh,
During
there's a
the live
live
stream,
version?
It was not edited in later.
There's a live version of that?
Yep.
Why have I not
It's
seen
world
this?
content. Yeah, look up my Eternal Crystals Let's Play Part 6 and just watch that opera scene.
Oh,
and
I
tell me
think
you're not-
I know
tell me
some.
you're not blown away.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch that after we're done here. But the opera scene, I again, one of my favorite moments from 6. I think it's fantastic. I love. In fact, I've actually used the opera stage as the thumbnail, as like the background for the thumbnail for this thing when it goes up in a few days. If I can get that. I don't know where it is. Oh, there it is. I'll just copy it.
So I guess I can probably guess exactly, which one is your favorite, or one of your favorites at least.
Oh, 6 is definitely a thing. I mean, another favorite moment. I love seeing Terra go Super Saiyan.
Oh, the scream though.
Her transformation, and I think it's fantastic.
The only more horrifying scream in a 16-bit game, other than Terra's transformation, is if you fail saving Lara in Chrono Trigger.
Or there's also Lavas, but I'm not sure if I'd qualify that as a scream or.
Well,
what.
that basically sets the tone of the villain, but no, that moment is what you
his
hear
laugh.
if you fail.
I mean,
Well, I was classifying it as a scream until now, but all right.
No, I don't know.
I mean, there's just so
Well,
many
that's his
good
laugh. His
moments.
scream is
in
worse. No, I'm kidding.
There's so many good moments in 6. I mean, the castle transformation, Terra's parents, that little segment you get where you get to play as her mom. or
Oh yeah, the
that
part where
kind of-
this castle goes underground. I
See?
forgot about that. That
There's
was
so
awesome.
much good
Stop
shit.
Mariner! I'll get you for this!
Kefka actually winning halfway through the game and then basically fucking the world
Destroying
to
the
pieces.
world as we know
it. I genuinely
Then
think
killing the dolphins.
he kills everything, including the poor dolphins. Yeah. Then again, dolphins are known to be rapists, so they deserve it.
He does a lot better than the next villain.
True. I mean, I think purely in terms of like moments and stuff, I don't think any Final Fantasy game beats 6 out in terms of number of great moments. I mean, every game has some, but I think this one has the most, at least in my opinion, anyway.
In terms of like story plot, I'd say 6 is the strongest I've ever seen.
I for a long time I was always undecided which do I prefer more, 4 or 6, and the problem is here's the thing. I think 4 has a
4 is a child story plot. I hate to say it.
here's the thing.
No, 5 is a child story plot. 4 is far more serious.
4 is 2.
I'll say this. I think 4 has a.
No.
I think 4 has slightly better gameplay just because it's more. It's more simplified.
They're brothers at the end.
Yeah.
The
4
guy, possession of possession isn't.
What?
Oh well. Whatever. I disagree on that, but whatever. 6 is not though. 6 is more mature than both of them.
Well, yeah, 6 is more. I suppose if you want to say more mature, but I just personally prefer the characters and story of 6. That's all. I think the 4's gameplay is a bit simpler and a bit better in that respect. But I think 6 has the better story and characters. And if you're playing an RPG, you're playing for story and characters. So.
Especially characters, because every main character in 6 gets fantastic development.
I will say this: it's a crime shame we've never gotten either a sequel or a remake to this, and I'm still waiting on one, to be honest.
Other people
They destroyed magic at the end.
I mean, I know. Okay, there's not much you really could do with a sequel, I suppose. All right, I want a remake then. Sue me.
Other
Okay.
people were really hoping there'd be like a redo on the other DS or something similar to the way they did for Final Fantasy IV,
Yeah,
but
why couldn't we get that?
it was just never to be. Same way with a Final Fantasy V 3D version.
I mean, I assume 6 at the time must have been the best-selling Final Fantasy game, right? When it came out.
I don't know for sure. It's very likely. Actually, it was probably 7 because 6 came out so close to it looked so close to the end of the Super Nintendo's lifespan as it did.
Yeah, despite how good 6 is, it still did not bring Final Fantasy into the mainstream gaming
Oh
world.
no! Obviously,
No.
we'll be talking about that the game that did that in a moment. So yeah, all right. So before we head off,
What?
what?
I mean, what? What are we? Okay, never mind.
Well,
I
if
have
there
no
was
idea.
one word I would use to describe 6, it was life changing.
I wouldn't say,
Breath of Fire 2 and Lufia 2 are 3 games that I played in my early teen years that literally changed my life.
I feel like what you're saying, but I feel like it was at the time. I still feel like even around that time, Final Fantasy would have been the most heard of RPG franchise.
yeah, because Pokemon wasn't out at the time, was it? So
Nope.
Yeah.
yeah, it probably
But
Dragon
One with
Quest probably to
warriors
an
and wizards,
extent, but
anyway.
Even the JRPGs were a very niche genre in the US up until 7.
But I suppose the last thing I need to ask.
Well, I mean,
before-
what I'm saying is, you said it wasn't mainstream. I'm among gamers. I'd argue it was.
for you guys maybe, but as I said, we didn't have any Final Fantasies even at this point. We won't get any until the 7th.
Okay. That I could get that one.
Yeah, from what I remember,
It's a case of if people played a JRPG back in the day, it was usually Final Fantasy, or if they played anything else, they'd also played Final Fantasy. But even then, Final Fantasy was still very, very unknown among gaming as a whole.
There were the
it
Game
was
Boy
more-
games that called themselves Final Fantasy.
Yet just to sell better in the US, and even then, they still are only known among those who played them.
What are you gonna say, NJ?
I was about to say, like when you were living in Europe, in more specifically in Britain, wasn't Mystic Quest the first Final Fantasy game that ever came to?
It was, but it wasn't actually called Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. I think it was called something else over here. But here's the thing: very few people actually paid attention to it. It was practically forgotten about, and a lot. We don't really consider it the first Final Fantasy game because number one, it's not a main series Final Fantasy game; it's a spin-off. So obviously, we consider 7. In fact, all of Europe actually, the first Final Fantasy game we got was 7. We missed out on all the NES and all the Super Nintendo stuff. We actually didn't get any RPGs. RPGs were, and to be fair, still are a bit of a niche product over here, sadly.
You got Chair Enigma.
We did. We also got Secrets of Mana, which is technically the first RPG I ever owned. I just never played much of it.
That's ironic. The Sword and Sorcery is supposed to be set in like medieval setting. Doesn't go where that originated from, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
You know what I'm saying, right?
Oh, I get exactly what you're saying. It's a bit better nowadays, of course, but back in like the 90s and even early 2000s, RPGs just did not sell well all over here in Europe. It was.
I just find it
pretty bad.
ironic.
Alright, so the one last question of Final Fantasy 6 before we move on to 7. Opie, pick a waifu.
Probably wants Realm.
Probably.
Yes.
Okay. Somebody call the police so we can move on.
You actually did.
That's a sirens going
Don't
off.
kill him
in the
anyway.
Oh shit.
FBI, open up! Actually, wait. We don't even need to open up. You've kicked in your door so many times, it's just loose now.
Pretty much.
Honestly, I saw lights the other night. I thought they were coming after me.
Okay, we've already begun talking about it. Obviously, this is the one, which is why I decided to do this in the first place, is because in a couple of weeks, we'll be hearing more about the remake. A game, I have to admit, I was not expecting to like when I played it for the first time, because I'd seen everything I thought I'd seen about it. Final Fantasy 7, here we go.
Overrated!
And that's you kicked out again.
No.
As I said, I played this in 2013. I already knew the story because it had been spoiled for me. I got onto the internet in like 2006. One of the first things I saw on internet videos was things like top 10 Final Fantasy moments, top 10 moments in Final Fantasy 7. Eris dies, shit like that. It was all over the fucking place. There was no way I could avoid spoilers for this game. So I had this spoiled for me. I played this in 2013, many years later, and I thought this wasn't just as good as I expected. It exceeded every expectation I had for it. So.
It's still really great. It's just kind of lost its luster over time. There are a few things that have not aged well at all.
Mind you, the Lego characters don't help.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean... Sorry, Mark, go ahead.
Go. There was a lot of topics in my head right at the time. Okay.
Pick one and go with it.
Best protagonist? For a single protagonist, but that's my opinion.
That's fair. I mean, this Cloud's not a terrible character.
For a main character guy.
Alright, well, let's get this out of the way right now. Favorite, party member. Who's everybody's favorite party member in 7? I mean, personally, I'd go
Can I pick Sid again?
if you like.
Sid, yep.
I gotta go
Sit
with...
down and drink your goddamn tea!
I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to...
Yes!
I know it's probably for the wrong reasons. I want to go with Tifa. Fuck it, I'm going with Tifa.
Yo, I'm gonna say Eris, because why not?
Opa, you be thinking hard and long about your waifu. You got 3 choices, really. Here.
Marlene.
Oh yeah,
I
Marlene.
know.
And
Damn,
then
man.
you got Barrett coming after him.
There's Omega Red.
And unfortunately, Barrett never runs out of ammo.
Oh, that's.
I mean, this is... Whether you think Final Fantasy 7 is a great game, an overrated game or whatever, I don't think anything can debate the fact that I think it was Dyne or somebody else mentioned earlier, it was the game that basically changed RPGs and brought RPGs and Final Fantasy especially into the mainstream gaming audience.
Yep.
You know, it's... And
I had not heard of it for a long time.
Really?
Yep.
That surprised me. I mean,
I had seen 8 before I saw 7.
oh, you poor soul.
It's along the lines of the internet did not exist yet.
Oh, fair enough.
Part of my defense there.
Yeah.
I mean...
But by the time I was getting on the internet, I saw plenty of it.
Same here. That's why I said the entire plot was spoiled for
I've
me
seen an
before I played
LP
it.
of like the whole game. Let's play the whole game. That's one of my favorite. Was one of my first favorite Let's Plays to watch. So
Can
there's
I
that
ask who
too.
that was, just in case it was the same as me?
H.C. Bailey.
I've seen that one, but it wasn't the first one I watched.
Okay.
I assume everybody most of you guys must have played this around the time it came out, though. Like Dyne and Nova, you two especially.
Oh yeah, it was one of my first two PS1 games.
Yeah,
Didn't even have a memory card for 2 weeks after getting it, so I played the first 6 hours pretty much every day.
Yeah, when I got my PS1 for Christmas the one year, I got the greatest hits version of Final Fantasy.
Oh, with that ugly green logo thing?
Yeah.
Let me think.
And I don't care if it had that on there. Excellent. I get to play this.
I actually, I'll never use it because I don't have a PlayStation 1 or even a PS2. I actually have a physical copy of this upstairs, and thankfully it's not the greatest hits version. I actually have the manual and everything with it still. It's fantastic.
Oh yeah, I downloaded but I did download the version for the Switch. It's I will get to probably try it again now. But the one thing it's the cutscenes are hurting my eyes physically.
What in the the slight upgrade ones?
The Switch one, for whatever reason, you know, the PlayStation style animation stuff. I don't know why. It's just a physical thing. They don't look bad. They just physically hurt my eyes, like they're too bright or something, or too much contrast. I don't know.
Can you not change like contrast settings and stuff in the game or anything like that?
I don't know. It's the only game that seems to be doing that.
Huh. Well, speaking of which, I mean, another reason to bring this up is because we've actually got a race of this coming up in a few weeks. So, I mean, I love the fact that like the first couple hours are a bit more linear, obviously because you're in Midgar and there's only so many places you can go in Midgar. And I think the first time, because I played like through Midgar and I basically did everything and looked at everything I could and tried to find everything there was to find. I probably spent about 6 hours there my first playthrough before I was suddenly let loose and I was like, holy shit, there's actually an overworld here.
With a very wonderful overworld theme, by the way. Not as good as first one and 6, but... if I may stay back to 6 for one thing, the Final Fantasy series, especially 6, was the first series to do something that more RPGs still do not enough RPGs do today. If you get into a random battle, the music continues where it left off in the map once you return from battle, rather than starting over.
Never noticed that, to be honest.
Yeah, 6 and 7 are the first ones to do that, which is really good because they have very long overworld themes.
I mean, talk about mechanics. I mean, 7 basically, in terms of the battle system, goes back to a very basic thing. To be honest, that's been like that since 6. Since 5, I think, actually. It's gone back to the active battle system, I think.
Yep, active time battle. Yeah. You're able to customize the skills through the materia system and gain levels within the materia system, and completely break the game with the materia system.
Active time
Knights of the Round, baby.
4.
What does everybody actually think of the materia system, actually? Because I love it, personally.
It takes a little bit of getting used to, but it's not nearly as bad as the junction system from 8.
True.
Oh, yeah,
they nicely ease you into it.
It feels like a weird combination of magicite from 6 and abilities from 5. So I've sort of, but I like the way that it was pulled off.
Fine to me. I guess I prefer 5's system more, but didn't look bad. I still have to get into it, I guess.
This is something I was going to ask, actually, and it's primarily for Dyne, NJ, and Nova, because you guys actually like played the series as kids and stuff. Was it weird playing a Final Fantasy game from Nintendo systems and then having to switch over to the PlayStation?
Not so much weird. I was just glad I had it.
Personally, I didn't get the whole experience only because I was born after the PlayStation. So I don't know if I remember it correctly. It's either Final Fantasy 6 or Final Fantasy 7 that I first actually really started or with on the Final Fantasy experiences. 6 is just the first one I really remember for sure.
Alright. Nova, what about you?
Don't think it ever felt weird to me to go from SNES to PlayStation when I got into 7. It just, I was just glad to play it.
Makes sense. I mean, what about other stuff in the game? Because here's the thing with 7, it introduces a lot of new stuff. Like, for instance, the chocobo racing. I mean, it's... God, the amount of time I spent riding those fucking cocks is ridiculous. Just to get that golden one.
7 actually introduces something that has been a downfall for Final Fantasy for the most part ever since. So many mini games that if you do everything they have to offer, you're spending more time on those than on the main game.
But I want my Knights of the Round.
That started with 7. It's seen in a lot of other PS1 RPGs at the time, and RPGs in general still have way too many unnecessary minigames.
Fishing in Final Fantasy 15, but we'll get to that later.
There is one thing about 7 that's overrated: the villain.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with that.
He's overrated. He looks cool, but he doesn't do anything awesome.
Basically,
it's not even him.
He's basically just got mommy issues. It's.
And he messes with Cloud's head. That's all he does. Hiding in a crystal the whole time.
It's like you say, he looks cool. He looks awesome.
Oh yes, he looks cool.
He's not a terrible
style over substance is what he is.
He's not a terrible antagonist. There's been worse in Final Fantasy. Don't get me wrong, but I definitely agree with you here. Sephiroth
style
is
over substance, big time. Kefka is
overrated.
The opposite.
Yeah, the thing with Sephiroth is all
and substance.
But the thing with Sephiroth is all the cool things he did before he died, and most of that's in Crisis Core.
Pretty much. And then he got thrown off a cliff.
Pretty much.
To be fair to the whole Kefka thing, you're also thinking of American Kefka. Apparently, Japanese Kefka had none of the style that U.S. Kefka did. So.
No, that's why Japan adopted Kefka's persona from the U.S. translation in later installments that had Kefka in it.
That's what he is in Dissidia too. So.
I mean, just trying to think. I mean, obviously, if nothing else, 7 gave us Dyne's name, GunarmDyne.
Yep.
Is where your name comes from, buddy.
Yep. Created a Final Fantasy 7 fan site way back in the day, back in 97, 98. Decided, well, we'll do a character shrine. Pretty much all of them at the time were either for Sid or Red 13. I said, well, let's do a twist. I'll do Barrett in the original Avalanche. What kind of moniker do I want? Oh, well, let's connect to that. Let's go with Dyne. And then that name was too short for a lot of forums. I said, okay, GunarmDyne.
Call him Dyne.
And he's stuck with him ever since.
Can I call him Gunarm?
You just got to be the country. I can't even think of the word.
Contrarian.
The contrarian, yes, thank you. I guess.
And that website still exists, by the way.
I mean, what about for like things like super bosses? Because I actually don't mind the weapons in 7 personally.
Aren't they like Omega and Shinryu kinda, but they have more HP?
Much worse, yes.
I mean, they're kind of the same concept though.
Just on steroids.
Yeah.
From what I know, the two
Plus,
weapons.
they have their own gimmicks to the fights too.
Yeah,
Well, nothing compared. Well, wouldn't the one in 9 make them look weak or something?
The one in 9 is more unpredictable than anything else.
Exactly.
I mean, all the 2 and 7 both have interesting gimmicks. One of them pretty much forces you to fight him alone. Otherwise, very bad things happen, and bad things happen even if you do fight him alone, unless you have the perfect strategy.
Right.
The other one will insta kill your entire party if you have more than 8 materia equipped on them.
Yeah, Emerald
then
weapons.
I
You
saw
also
that
have to
Let's
fight
Player
underwater.
wreck both of them. So there's that.
With the proper strategy, you can wreck them, but if you don't know, you're going to get wrecked way more.
Yeah,
It looked like that. It looked like that big time.
7 is the first one to introduce super bosses that take way too much preparation for potentially little payout, because both Omega and Shinryu in 5 can be beaten just with the right abilities or the right equipment.
And Shinryu gets a great reward for killing him.
Yes.
What is the reward for Shinryu being killed? Because I never actually got.
Ragnarok,
okay,
best sword in the game.
It's like, and actually, he's in the Advanced 1. Your Final Fantasy 1 party gets to fight a version of him. He guards a Ragnarok in that one. Omega doesn't guard anything. You just gotta.
No.
It's better to run past him usually.
He's the bragging rights reward boss, but again takes more of a takes a more concrete strategy.
And don't forget the advanced version has that version of Shinryu where if you try to flare blade him rapid fire, he's got that alternate version of him that doesn't take damage.
Fair. I think obviously I suppose
whatever.
we could talk about the story. I guess. I mean, do you really want to talk about that since the remake's going to be coming out soon? Of course. Is anybody looking forward to that? Because I'm highly pumped for it. I think there's no game that's been announced in like the last 10 years probably that I've looked forward to more than this. Maybe Sonic Mania, but that's about it.
7 also is a bit wacky in places, if you think about it.
Of course it is. You cross-dress as Cloud.
Yeah.
That's not the only part.
Let's not even talk about the Honeybee Inn as well, where you get rubbed down by the big burly guys.
Yeah, there are two things that plenty of people are looking forward to the remake. The first is, of course, will Tifa's boobs be as big as they were?
Double
And then
D's,
there will
baby.
be there will be massive controversy over that. The second is they are hoping the Honeybee Inn scene remains as it is.
Here's the I don't want them to take anything out. I just want them to do a remake. You can do whatever battle system you want. Just make sure you don't take any of the fun stuff out and make 7 too serious. Part of the charm of 7 is the fact that it's a bit kooky at times.
Well, the thing is, people are saying, "Oh, we're getting a remake, but they're changing too much." Well, that's when they say, "No, you wanted a remaster," which is basically a minor overhaul while retaining most of the original elements. Usually graphics and updated music, but maintaining the original system, the materia. No, the remake is a completely new battle system, starting over that from scratch, while most likely maintaining the same story progression.
I'm strangely enough looking forward to seeing Hojo sunbathing on the beach with a couple of women. That is going to be weird in HD.
So you got
What are the GBA ports, Dyne, technically?
Those are remasters, technically.
Because they had the extra dungeons in them that weren't in the original versions, kind of thing.
So
So
they
they're
didn't change the core
remasters.
mechanics. Yeah, they added stuff to it.
They did also fix.
This
like,
is
a number of
confusing
bugs.
terminology. Okay.
Well, sorry, they did also fix a number of bugs. Like Final Fantasy VI Advance obviously fixes the majority. As far as I can tell, the majority of the bugs, both annoying and useful, from Final Fantasy VI, which is good.
Oh, bugs in 7. Executive produce.
To keep it on 7 though, I suppose one last thing before we go about it is, obviously we've talked about the fact that it's going to be at E3 in a couple of weeks. Does anybody think we're maybe going to get a release date for the first disc? What is essentially going to be the first episode, whatever they're calling it, I can't remember.
I'm not gonna get my hopes up.
I'm hoping, but I'm not going to be too disappointed. As long as we get something on the game, I don't care if it's a release date, but I'd like to see a release date. Anybody else?
So quiet.
Personally, I'm actually really excited because it'd be the first time I'd ever actually play through Final Fantasy VII. It's one of the, and I never actually got to play it very far into Final Fantasy VII, even like at all.
I am looking forward to the disaster of the race, just to see how lost Gold's going to get. Sorry, Gold, but it's true.
That would be awesome.
Opie, I suppose we'll end this again with you. Pick a waifu.
Oh, do I have to? Shit. There's
Marlene,
so
we already established that.
No, we want Barrett and Drag for Opie.
Jesus.
Well, Cloud dresses like a woman in this one.
Exactly, it's not weird at all.
The pimp guy can't tell the difference.
Don Conial, or whatever his name is.
Oh my god!
God damn.
That's your waifu now, Opie.
Yes.
I'm sad.
Yeah.
Don Corneo is his waifu? Ugh.
Hey, I mean, he's got the whole fucking brothel going for him, or wherever it is he runs, I can't remember. I think, obviously, there's a lot more that can be said about 7, but I don't want to make this too long, as it's already going quite long, but...
Are we going to turn Infinity sideways?
Most awesome moment in 7, Red 13 recognizes his father for the hero he was.
Yes.
That is a good moment. I'm trying to think if anything can top it. Anybody else come up with a favourite moment from 7?
You know, I'm gonna say the sacrifice scene with the Kate Sith, but because it's a smart sacrifice.
I get
In a
that, yeah,
sense,
because he's
for
basically
once.
just a puppet, isn't he? So
Exactly. Most of the time, we kill ourselves so you guys can move on. But I'm just a robot. I'll see you again. Can I pick that?
yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
I'm personally
that's
trying to.
actually a pretty good one.
I'm gonna say this. It's gonna make it look like a complete shipper, but I love the fact that Tifa basically abandons the team to stay with Cloud.
Yes.
I know it's
They were
stupid, but I
finding out
can't
what
help
happens
it.
to him. What really happened to him. That was cool too.
Yeah, that was also a really good moment. I basically meant that whole entire thing, to be honest. But I think that's where it starts. But that is probably my favorite part of the
There's also
story.
the spaceship that
Oh, with Sid?
everything with Sid. Everything about the plot moment with Sid.
What was the woman's
Oh,
name who we...
yeah.
The woman who basically ruins the first launch. What was her name?
Shara.
Shira.
Oh, okay.
She didn't ruin it. She was basically ready to die. so
I
it would
know
happen.
she didn't do it thinking she was ready to sacrifice herself anyway, but obviously Sid abandoned the launch to...
Yeah.
To save her life, because she was trying to fix an error that came
Right.
back to haunt him 20 years
Oh,
later.
that was it. Sorry, I've recently played through the
Yep.
game again. That's as far as I've got. Is just before the flashback. So, all right. Well, I think we shall move swiftly on to the let's play. Basically, that is basically what Square Enix doing, isn't it? They're skipping over 8. So,
Actually, when I was thinking about this in advance, I thought of the one thing they put any decent attention to in 8. It was the romance thing between the only two characters that matter.
oh, I'm gonna
Plot-wise,
argue
and
with you
that's
on
it.
that. I'm gonna argue with that.
Lagoon and Rain.
Yeah, absolutely. Because let's face
What?
we'll talk about the romance in a bit. We'll get on to Final Fantasy, because I'll say this, I've been let's playing this over the course of the last couple of years. Opie, Nova, NJ, and also Scarecrow have been joining me for this. We've just had so much fun ripping this fucking story to shreds.
I don't think I actually.
And ripping the crap, the living crap out of
Did you
Cypher.
protect the hot dogs when the school was under
No.
attack?
Yeah, you don't play 8 for the story. You play to make fun of it.
Yeah.
Despite having a reasonably good battle system and a killer soundtrack.
I was gonna say,
Cypher.
I say this. While I've been let's playing the thing, I will say I've had more of a, I've got more consideration for the game because I am more respect because I have actually found I actually do enjoy the battle system. I like the what do you call it? The junction system. I didn't like it when I first played it, but doing the let's play, I've actually changed my mind. I
Yeah,
still
like I said, they throw everything in the junction system at you pretty much all at once. You don't really have time to figure it out. And I will say this about 8, still has the best card game in Final Fantasy.
Oh, Triple Triad's pretty
Triple
fun.
Triad!
I'll be honest, I don't like it when they start going fucking crazy with the rules. I like the core base game of Triple Triad, but as soon as it's like, oh, if you get this and they've got that, it's all the same, you get half the fucking square because that makes total sense to me. I don't know. As soon as it got into like really stupid rules, I kind of dropped off with the Triple Triad minigame, but I didn't mind the
Yeah,
base game at all.
Like the LP I saw.
The thing with 8 is it had a decent story in mind. It just wasn't executed very well. Because the main premise, of course, is transitioning from childhood to adulthood. All the main characters are still technically kids being thrown into this adult world, and they honestly don't know how to act in it.
Amnesia, but with ridiculous amounts of amnesia
Yep.
and coincidences.
But despite that,
weirdest
there are some very awesome moments throughout the game.
There is, but I was like with Mark was saying, he liked the romance. I hated the romance between Squall and Renoa.
Oh, I thought you said, okay.
I
thought
thought
it was written.
I thought it was terrible. I mean, I'll be honest.
Oh.
As a protagonist, I don't particularly like Squall. I think he's okay if he was like a side character or something who was trying to overcome like his shyness and stuff. That would be fine. But the fact that he's the main focus of the story, I really didn't like. I find Renoa to be a complete fucking ditz, and I don't like her just for that
Yes.
reason alone.
Oh,
Of the characters, I actually like Selphie the best, and I don't mind Irvine either.
Well, the
do you have a
thing with
correct-
Squall,
what do I know?
the thing with
You're allowed
Squall
your
is
opinion.
I only watched the Let's Play. I never played it. So I actually didn't watch that one that much, so there's that too.
Dude, you can have your opinion. I'm not getting on your ass for having a different opinion than me.
Yeah, the thing with Squall is he's not a victim of bad writing per se, because in the original, and especially in Dissidia, they really focus on him just wanting to be a loner because he was just traumatized by the disappearance of his best friend and really sister figure, whereas in the US version, they just wrote him as an emo git.
Can I ask this, because I honestly can't for the life of me, right? And just to clarify, this will obviously contain spoilers. Alona, or whatever the fuck you call her, you pronounce her name, his is half sister, right?
You could say she's his stepsister.
They're not blood related at all?
Right, because her parents died. She was adopted by Rain, and of course Rain.
Oh,
married
she was
Laguna.
adopted by Rain. I thought Rain was her actual birth
Yeah.
mother.
Nope.
Oh.
Her birth parents were killed either in war or by monsters. I forget which.
Oh, because all
But
this
no,
time I thought they were actually
we-
half. I thought they were half siblings. So.
Nope. But
Oh.
yeah. Squall still looked to her as a big sister.
I mean,
Laguna was funny in Dissidia.
Laguna is actually the one shining character in 8, in my opinion. If you could play the entire game as him, I would love it. Just this awkward, bumbling, kind of cool, but definitely a massive fucking geek in many ways. Like he can't
Oh yeah.
talk to
effective
he
geek.
can't talk to women. He gets cramps if he's talking to women and all that. He's a fantastic character, but it's just a shame you don't get to play as him more.
Yeah.
But obviously,
Yeah,
that's just my opinion.
If you want true companions who go through hell together, Laguna, Kyros, and Ward.
Yeah, they've got the best story of 8 in terms of the characters, anyway. But I suppose what was I going to ask us? I mean, here's the thing with 8. I've no like there's all those theories about Cloud was dead after disc 1, which I know has been this. I know there's been said by the
Cloud was dead after disc 1.
Well, it's because of how it ends, isn't it? This one where he gets impaled by that massive eye shard. I know the Square Enix have basically
Through his
said
hair?
this. No, for his chest.
Cloud.
I said Squall.
You said Cloud first.
Oh, did I? Oh, my apologies. Okay, I said Cloud. I honestly didn't know.
I was
Final
wondering,
Fantasy 8 killed Cloud!
I was wondering why. I was just wondering, like, did we start talking about Final Fantasy 7 again?
Sorry.
That's how he didn't die!
Yeah, apparently Cloud
Cloud
died
was a
in
stunt
the
double.
disc one.
Gosh dang it!
I mean, there's a lot of theories and stuff to try to make the game, but I personally do think disc 1 is probably the best disc in terms of both. I don't like the story of disc 1, but I think it's more consistent in terms of its delivery than the rest
Oh,
of the
I
game.
remember something bad about 8. Level up with you.
That sucks. I hate
That's,
it when
I think,
games
the
do
main
that.
thing,
Yeah,
that's the main
monsters,
thing
yeah.
that stopped me from getting past disc 1.
We forgot one.
What?
We're forgetting like a 7.5 or something.
What?
T. FFT.
Tactics.
Oh, we're just doing main series, dude. For now.
Oh, okay.
Main number series and their direct sequels.
we
no
can do
You think maybe
another
we could
episode
take
later,
maybe
another
talk-
time.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. We could
I
split
played
it into a different
FFTA
episode.
and I've also played Crystal Chronicles, at least the
I was
first
thinking
one.
we could split it into like a different episode or something for the Final Fantasy spin-offs because there's so many of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, to be honest, the only reason I said that at the beginning. Sorry, I forget that you and Mark weren't here right at the beginning, dude. So, yeah, I actually mentioned that earlier. What
Now,
were we talking about?
The thing about the enemies leveling up with you is that sounds bad on the surface, but it basically allows you to beat the game at whatever level you're on, so long as you have the proper strategy. What could be worse, and I learned this at RPG Limit Break, is enemies scale with you up to a point. The final bosses do not. They are always at a set level.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, in
Yep.
Lunar Dragon Song. Because the regular enemies scale up with you up until the final battles.
Please tell me what that is, because I'm currently, as I said, I'm LPing it. I'm already on disc 3. Or I'm about to start disc 3, I think.
No, in FF8 you're fine. The enemies will always scale with
Yeah,
you.
but
I'm
what
talking
is
about
what's the final boss though?
final boss is Ultimecia.
No, I mean, yeah, but you said the level doesn't stay, does it? It's
No. Even the final boss in 8 will scale with you.
Oh,
I was
sorry,
Just talking
sorry.
I was just talking about a different game with a similar mechanic, but suddenly stops at the final boss, which ruins a lot of speedruns.
Wait, so scaling with you for the final boss is a bad thing? Or not scaling with you?
I don't like the idea of. I like the idea of progression where I can get stronger than these enemies around me. I don't like the
I
fact that they
don't
grow
like
with
making
me.
the boss sronger by making myself stronger. I want to work so my work means something as the final boss, but I don't know.
In this case, the level doesn't matter so much as, of course, you know how to break the game with the junction system.
Of course.
You can still steamroll pretty much any boss,
Yeah,
regardless of level.
Personally,
the junction is the real level up.
Go ahead, Andrew.
but yeah, that was my experience. That was my experience when I was a little kid. I knew there was one strategy that I do for RPGs that my dad taught me about. You can't beat it level up until you can.
That
Final
is
Fantasy
my
is like
philosophy, and that is my philosophy, dude.
It's like the one Final Fantasy 8's like the one of the few games I actually got to play as a kid where that philosophy does not work.
There we go.
And it kind
Welcome
of
back.
that's probably the reason why I never got past disc 1. That and I kind of lost interest with
I
the
think
game.
Tactics did the similar thing. So that's
But-
part of why I remembered it now.
Yeah, similar, but only on random battles, and they scale up with Ramses levels. Story battles are set levels.
Now, remind me, because it is the 20th anniversary of 8 this year, isn't it?
I believe so.
I mean, there's been talks, because here's the thing, 8 is the one that's, whether you love it or hate it, the fact of the matter is this is the one that's not getting ported to the Switch. This is the one that hasn't been ported to anything in a while. I mean,
Well,
I know they
there-
said it's for coding reasons and stuff, or something like that.
They lost the source
yeah,
code of the game.
Yeah,
Her two different accounts on that. One is the source code. 2 is Fei Wong is a bitch and refuses to release the rights of Eyes on Me, thus preventing the entire game from being ported anywhere again.
Before I step away, can I say that I like women with glasses?
so you're a
Quistis.
Quistis. Yes.
This is yes.
She's too old for you, man.
Yeah.
But I don't. And just because she's not a lolly doesn't mean I can like older women too. You know.
Isn't she about Cloud's? Isn't she about Squall's age?
She's about a
Squall's, like,
year
teenager
older, I
or something?
think.
Squall's younger than Cloud.
Squall's 17, right, at the beginning of the game?
17
Yeah.
or 18, somewhere around there. Yeah, Cloud
Yeah,
is 21.
See, I'm okay with that.
But yeah,
she's
in
his
terms of
teacher
what,
too.
Yes,
in terms of waifus,
This makes
either
no sense.
Fujin or Alone.
for teacher, yes.
Actually,
And they were raised in the same orphanage. They're
I
about
know,
the same age
it's
apparently.
stupid, really, isn't it?
Never mind.
All the main
Wait,
characters.
I will be right back, gentlemen.
Go for it.
Alright.
Since
Alright.
The only one who wasn't there was the cowboy. Or no, he was. Never mind.
No,
He-
everyone was. The reason why... Well, here's the thing.
I
They
don't
say
think about because that part is really stupid.
it is extremely stupid. The thing is, apparently, if you use GFs, it fucks with the memory. And since
Yeah.
Irvine doesn't actually start using GFs until like he joins the party, it hasn't affected his memory yet. So he remembers everybody. He just didn't say anything because apparently nobody else said anything because that's a good reason for some reason. It's just really fucked up. It is due to the GFs, and him not using them until he joins the party is why he remembers and nobody else does.
I will say this though, it does give the one downside of not using GFs in the game because you figure with all this it was introduced about this is thingy, do all this and do all that. And, well, here's your downside, folks.
Can I say I hate
No
that?
downside gameplay wise.
Can I just say
Not gameplay wise, no.
It's, 8 is also, I think, the game, maybe 15, but we'll get to that later, another time or something, but 8 is the one game where I've had this thing where it keeps building up to something and nothing happens. Like, let's, for instance, talk first.
They lose their way to the end.
Let's
Even
talk...
the final plan is to basically hand the villain what they want and kill them in the process.
I know, but I was talking primarily to start with about this whole... That whole scene at the lighthouse where they all say, oh, we were all in the same orphanage together. The fact that GFs are supposed to wipe memories, why did that not play a bigger part in the game? I mean, I know it still plays a couple of parts towards the end and stuff and all that, especially with that weird ending sequence, but it felt like they just fucking wrote that in for the sake of these 6 party members not remembering each other.
It's
they
a plot
forgot.
contrivance.
I know, it's just, I wish they'd
Because-
have gone somewhere with it.
Because the GFs made them forget Turbo.
And that's not the only one. The biggest fucking middle...
That's my joke answer.
I know, but the biggest fuck you, like, oh, we've gone all this way and we're not going to give you something. Squall meeting up with Laguna, who is essentially his dad. They don't have any real fucking, father-son moment. They don't have a big talk. It's like, oh, we'll talk later. That's the last thing Laguna says to Squall. Where's my payoff for all this fucking build-up? Seriously, Square, this is all you're going to give me? Was nobody else pissed off about that? Was it really just me?
Well, in the Battle of the School, protect the hot dogs.
Even then, Laguna, there's no direct statement from Laguna saying, "Yeah, Squall, I'm your father." No, it's a throwaway conversation by talking to Ward. It's very easily missed.
I don't know. 8 just feels... Do you know what? 8 reminds me very much of Mass Effect 3. All that fucking build-up for no real payoff. I don't know.
I have another note of 8, for what it's worth.
Go for it.
Do not watch the Adele scene when you're too young to barely read.
Which one was that? The scene?
Once where she reaches out of the thing, coming back to life and grabs
Oh yeah,
In the super CGI mode, with the creepiest smile ever.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
Oh, Nightmare Fuel.
No,
Before I could read!
the nightmare fuels where Squall's face just has a massive hole in it. I
Well, whatever.
I think I'll say this right now. I mean, as I said, I have a little bit more love for the game since starting the LP, but that is purely for gameplay-wise, and the fact that I'm having fun with these guys just taking the piss out of the fucking thing.
Note, there's one interesting note about it.
What?
It kind of takes a note out of Mario RPG's book now I think about it. It's the first one that does that, to my knowledge.
In what way?
Like the Rizakuken timing plays a role.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the gameplay of 8 is fine. In fact, it's actually pretty good if you can teach yourself the junction system.
I mean,
Of course, if you have a tone around that says he knows about timed hits, you're playing the wrong game.
Pretty much.
But Rizakuken
other
is
thing
basically
about
timed hits.
The breaks the game besides the junction system is once you get the spell aura, then it's easier to get everything's limit breaks. Then you just completely break the game.
Well, you can just make it even more easy.
I
Just
just remember something else awesome about it.
go for it.
Blasting zone.
Oh,
Or
my
the
heart beats
attack
that.
animations.
Well, unfortunately, as I alluded to in the Chrono Trigger race for LPH, Squall stole Blasting Zone from Frog.
Just a heads up, guys, because it's starting to get really late for me. We'll probably do 10 and 10-2 and then leave it for tonight.
We're doing 10?
Not yet. We've got to do 9 yet.
We
but-
skipped 10?
I'd actually recommend we stop after 8 because that is more or less the halfway point, with the sequels included.
Actually,
Oh,
yeah, you
okay.
got a really good point there. So we're not actually quite done with 8 yet, though. So
9's overall a better game.
Dan's got a point. We are actually technically at the halfway point with all the sequels to 10 and 13.
And 13 yet, but I will definitely say FF8 has several awesome moments. First one, Quistis blasting the shit out of that mechanical spider in Dalet.
That is
Machine
awesome.
gun?
Yes.
Second, Squall, after Irvine misses his shot, Squall basically says, okay, fuck it, I'm going after the sorceress, jumps out of the tower, steals the car, drives through the crowd, and just goes straight through Cypher at the sorceress. And third is, I'm going to get kicked out of the call again, Cypher killing Odin.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I
Kind
can't...
of cool.
I mean,
The final boss is tougher than your summons.
Yeah,
a
that's
sense.
nice. I get that. I don't like Cypher as a character, I'll be honest. I think... I wish we could have either killed him and he came back to life or just killed him outright. I just did not care for the character.
Look at what he said about Cypher.
Or beat him up as a child. Kingdom Hearts 2.
Yeah.
Kingdom Hearts 2. Cough, cough.
What does that lead to afterwards? Gilgamesh appearing and basically just blasting the crap out of Cypher.
I mean,
Then we get we get Gilgamesh.
Yep.
I'll say this. I'm not I don't like the romance at all, as I've mentioned, but the ballroom scene is fantastic.
It was literally the ballroom and the space scene I was thinking of when I said that.
I just think it looks like some of this. Obviously, like FF7 didn't really have very good CGI cutscenes. In fact, they were outright bad. If 8's CGI cutscenes though are fantastic, I will give the game that. Even graphically, the game looks nice.
The graphics
Like
in
for
8
the
are
day,
just miles
especially.
above 7.
I suppose another moment I like is technically not a moment. It's more like a gameplay section, and I don't love it, but I actually did kind of get a kick out of the whole hijacking the train section. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Showcasing what seeds are capable of.
Yeah, exactly.
I like how silly it is after how serious people take it, though, in a sense.
I have to ask though. I mean, obviously we're not going to be doing 9 tonight, since obviously as Dan already pointed out, it's a good halfway point. But does everybody agree that 8 is probably the weakest of the PS1 trilogy, at least?
Yeah.
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 I've played all three of them. I'd agree. As
I
I
would
haven't
say
even
it's
played 'em.
not a bad game. It's just weird.
It has strong points, too, but it's the weakest of them. Yeah.
Yep.
But I think we can all agree on that. I mean, there's a reason it often gets overlooked sometimes. It's not because it's an underrated game. It's because people do have quite a few problems with it. But
Oh, and the disc passing on was terrible. Because
what
if
do
you
you
weren't
mean?
ready for certain things, you were kind of screwed. Especially with the last one,
How do you mean?
what I saw.
The first battle in Disc 4 is Adele. Then you're thrown into a boss rush.
And you can't use GFs on it,
Oh, okay.
because you'll kill the person.
Yeah, because Adele's got Renoa chained to her body, so
So
Oh.
you kind of have to go back to disc 3 if you need to prep.
So it looks like, alright, so at least that's good to know for when I eventually get back to the
But
ELP.
if you're fully prepared, you can bring it down and easy. But like I saw this through my cousin, he couldn't beat Adele very easily.
You know, you keep saying Adele, all I can think of is the fucking singer. Sorry, go ahead, NJ.
It seems like, from what I've heard, Final Fantasy VIII has actually seems to be a flaw with Final Fantasy VIII, is that it seems to have a few bosses of that type that you kind of get trapped into fighting them unless you don't have a previous save file.
Hmm.
And they often have some kind of, and they're often like they have some kind of issue that stops you from proceeding, or at least that's what I'm hearing from multiple sources.
Yes.
So.
The missile base is probably the biggest offender.
Yeah.
Although I will say this, I mean, I love some of the abilities and stuff you can get from leveling up your GFs and stuff. But again, it comes back to this. Gameplay wise, 8 is actually pretty good. It's just everything else about it that kind of sucks.
Yeah, the story makes no sense. Half the cast are morons.
It looks too serious, and the plot itself is actually too goofy.
In several ways, yeah. I actually think the first disc actually is quite well told.
Why did she use a dog as a weapon?
Oh, Angelo.
Dog on a
Poor fucking Angelo. Oh,
That
yeah.
was a good moment. Angela beating the crap out of enemies.
True. It is pretty fun in that way, isn't it?
This is a serious game. Launches
One more
dog on
thing
a
about
cannon.
8. One more thing about 8 is the Ragnarok is probably the coolest airship design in the series, but getting it is the biggest contrived coincidence ever.
Oh yeah, they're just drifting through space. What's that over there?
Oh,
It's floating through the air like a fucking desolate Megazord or something.
everything before that was the fun part of that scene.
And oh yeah, the Ragnarok
That
OST
ruins
was
it.
also pretty damn awesome too.
Oh Christ! I mean, let's say, I mean, if you like 8, we're sorry for shitting on your favorite game or whatever, but
Are we recording this?
yeah.
Yep.
Oh.
But
No, I
since
made that thumbnail for no reason at all, Mark.
But yeah, since it
Thumbnail?
has been brought up, waifus
Check
in
the main
8,
deck.
either alone or Fujin. None of the main gals for me.
All right. Anybody else?
Oh,
Favorite?
yeah,
That's
you wanna
another
get
thing
really-
about 7. Oh yeah,
7?
The 7's. Sephiroth being lame ruins Aerith's death in a few ways. Because you're supposed to be so pissed off at this guy for killing her, but he's not the one who did it.
Yeah, true. Even nowadays, though, people make that mistake.
It partially ruins the scene.
Actually, that is something
Not the her dying part, but the whole vengeance against him part.
I hate to go back to 7 because we've already passed it. Do you think in the remake they'll change that so it's actually Sephiroth killing Eris?
Probably not.
That'd be hard because he'd have to teleport. He'd have to like get out of the crystal, run over there, and then do it, and then get back in his crystal.
I actually think they'll change a few plot points just so they can do that personally, but I don't care either way. I'm just wondering if they might do that.
Neither do
Alright,
I.
so Dyne, I think you already mentioned it. Just to say it again though.
I
Favorite
just thought of it.
Just
Yeah,
let's
so-
favorite character from 8.
Favorite overall character? You're gonna hate me, but Squall as he was originally written.
Okay. Mark.
I want to say Squall, but it's sort of because he didn't inherit his hero status, as I understand it. Laguna's just sort of a loser guy, and
He's a soldier,
he's
but
not
he's a bit
chosen
of a
blood,
loser.
as far as I know, and that's my reasoning. Kind of like Cloud was.
Oh, I actually forgot to say myself. I'm actually going to go with Laguna. Maybe Selfie, just because she's so cheerful. NJ, what about you?
I might go with Selfie, but honestly, it's been so long since I've done or seen anything related to Final Fantasy VIII. I don't remember any of these characters. I'm going to be honest.
Okay, fair enough. At least
Fair
you're
enough.
abstaining. That's commendable if you can't remember. Opal, I'll come to you last since you're not actually picking a character, rather a waifu. But Nova,
He
what
already
about
said
you?
it.
Oh, did he? Who? Oh yeah,
No,
Christus.
he
Yeah,
hasn't.
He said
He's still
Christus.
AFK too.
Yeah.
Nova, go ahead. Favorite character.
Between either Squall or Laguna, it's hard to pick between the two. Well, Squall, for reasons because he can actually kick so much butt in battle. Laguna because he's actually got a good story behind him. So it's
Fair enough.
probably a toss-up. Oh yeah, just I'm throwing waifus for Opie because he would be the kind of guy to do this. I'm throwing Ultimisia or Adele.
I mean, you already technically said Quistis though, so
The first or second form for the first, second, or third form for Ultimisia.
Fill in the blank.
we should just
Probably the second one.
we should just give him Shiva so she can frost his dick over, so he can never be a problem to any woman ever again.
Who needs a cold shower when you're encased in a block of ice?
Pretty much. All right, so that's the first 8 games of Final Fantasy. He also talked a little bit about, well, Dyne talked a little bit about the after years, since he's the only one here that's actually beaten the game, I believe.
That's why I wasn't sure if we were sticking to the main
Well,
series.
to be fair, I actually did play it and I haven't beaten
But
it.
that's a
though.
weird one.
Yeah. When it comes to this, and obviously we'll do a part 2. We're just gonna be talking about the main series and the direct sequels. We'll talk about spin-offs another time.
The number then twos.
Yeah.
Of
Or
them.
as when we had 10, it'll be 10-2, and then with 13, it'll be 13-2, and then Lightning Returns. And of course, Nova and I will be gushing over 14 a little bit as well. Since
Yeah, a little.
Mr.
Oh, wait, 11.
11's probably
11 is so weird.
11's probably the one we're gonna have nothing to say about any of us.
I think what's it? The one who represents 11 in Dissidia is one of the funniest people to hear talk in Dissidia for what it's worth. But beyond that, I got nothing.
I have choice words about Shantotto, but we'll get to that.
She's funny. She goes to Extith and says the void is in your head. So there's that. and she calls Cloud's hair a distraction.
I suppose here's the thing, NJ, Mark, I apologize you guys missed like the first 3 games, like for the first 25 minutes wherever it was, where you missed the
I'm
first
not missing
section.
2.
Don't worry.
2 is...
We talked about it earlier. It's good,
Wait, did you
decent
talk
stuff.
about the advanced dungeon of 2 at all?
Oh,
in
yeah.
Dawn of Souls?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Like you have the most under-leveled guys for
Yep.
any situation ever,
we talked about
but
that
there's no
earlier.
level system to begin with.
Yeah, we talked about how 2 had a great cast and story, but not such good gameplay mechanics.
I feel like Final Fantasy 2 story like
We're random.
most of the
you
story was
expect-
good, the characters were not. Sorry.
The characters were
In 2?
I mean the main 4 or cast that you actually play.
2
as were
didn't
not.
have it. They were like as much non-characters as possible, in a sense.
Well, the guest characters
Yes.
are what
The guest characters are actually characters.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
Oh, okay, sorry.
All you need to know about the main 4, the main 4, well, technically main 3, because they're with you the whole game, and 2 is Guy Speak Beaver. That's
Yes.
really, that's really
Yes.
the only unique thing any one of them does throughout the whole game.
Alright, I was gonna save this till the end if we got through all of them, but I wasn't expecting to do it. Of every game we've talked about tonight, which has been your favorite one so far of the technically 9 games we've talked about?
6.
Like I said, for gameplay 5, well, I only played the advanced version of 5. I've heard that the advanced version is better than the original for 5. But
Except for the sound
six-
chip.
What?
Except for the sound chip.
I'm okay with it. It was the first experience I had with it. Final Fantasy does well, and for plot's sake, 6.
And
that's where I stand.
I would say 6, but 7 is teetering right next to it for me.
Honestly, personally, I'd go for 6, but 4 is teetering right next to it for me. At least partially because of nostalgia value, but yeah.
That's fine. Nova?
Yeah, for me, I think 4 is my favorite, but 7 is second place.
And 2 sits over there crying. And 8's trying to console it.
It's called the Black Sheep for a reason.
True. Yes, I don't
Not
think
even
it's...
one is never. One is weird because it's like the one that's never mentioned. It's not too bad, but it's not good enough.
I said it earlier. 1 is good to get a person into RPGs if they've never played an RPG. It has all the mechanics of what you can expect from an RPG.
Yeah. It also depends
one
on
I've
what
hacked.
version you get. It depends
Crap
on what
out of it.
version you give them. Depends on what version you give them. If you give them the original NES version, that'll probably turn them off of RPG.
No, I'm talking like the GBA or the PSP version of 1.
I had GBA, PSP, PS1 for what it's worth. Any version but the original NES
Yeah.
version, unless you're really
Yeah, nothing
already
works in
into
one.
old RPGs.
No,
I forgot nothing works in the
it
original.
really doesn't. It's a broken mess.
Well, everything that does damage works, but well, sort of. So everything that does damage works, but it doesn't work
As it's intended.
exactly right. Like intelligence doesn't work.
It's kind of like with the first generation
But that
Pokemon,
makes-
though. That
that's what
doesn't
made
work
the
as it's
game
intended.
Because when they balance, oh sorry,
No, carry on. If you go first.
when they made intelligence work, magic was too good. You don't need the level 3 spells anymore of the fire, lightning, ice.
I need to actually play through 1, and I mean like the original NES FF1 at some point, all the way to the end.
Yep.
Alright, yeah, I hope
Be prepared to grind.
I will.
Well, actually, the bosses are a joke in the first one.
Well, I have to see when it comes to it. Well, I think we'll leave this off here. Obviously, we've been doing this discussion now for over 2 hours.
Can I give some thoughts on 3 first, real quick? Because I didn't get a
I
chance.
tell you what, yeah. You and Mark, give your a couple of quick thoughts on 3 if you can.
Ugh, man. That one. I was trying to get through the Final Fantasy series and up through 6 at that point, and I think 3 and 6 were the last ones I bought for that. For like the Advanced 3, Advanced 6, and DS3. 3 takes forever for me to get through, and I hate how I never know where I am if I start after a file after a long time in 3. 3 is the worst offender. No, that's one thing about Final Fantasy in general that sucks. There's no where do I go if I came back after a long wait?
Yeah.
They're all bad at that.
What about you, NJ?
Personally, or as far as I'm concerned with Final Fantasy 3, it has a decent storyline, especially for the time. If you're playing the original, it has a pretty. I'd say its storyline ends up being better than 2 overall in some ways. But the job system is very rough around the edges, especially compared to Final Fantasy 5, which ended up perfecting it. In Final Fantasy 5, literally any combination of jobs can work. You can beat the whole game with four berserkers with no jobs at all or whatever.
Good luck with that one.
Yeah,
It's possible.
It's ludicrously hard, but still possible. Final Fantasy 3, you pretty much have to pick the winning combination of jobs, or you're just screwed.
There was that one boss who's that one advisor in disguise as a bird monster or something.
Garuda.
And then for that one, I had to turn like everyone into a dragoon and just use jump at the right timing.
Yep.
Yeah, it's basically the only strategy that works outside of grinding like 20 or 30 levels and just tanking all the lightning directly in the face.
But I think at a certain point, when you save in there, you have to kill him, or to get out. I think, at least the DS version.
I believe you can't. There is still inns and shops inside there and random encounters. So
There's nowhere to grind. Maybe I'm not looking hard. Well, didn't look hard enough. And
I don't know about the DS version, but on the translated NES version that I played, there are random encounters inside the city, so you can actually you can still gain levels, gain job levels, etc., and actually kill them that way if you come in way under leveled and stuff.
Because I think the scenario is you get in there, you crash your ship, so you have to find another way to do stuff. You have to resolve it there a bit to get out.
All right. Basically, it's a
Best.
It's a well-known dead zone. Alongside Hein, which is much earlier in the game. If you don't take a scholar in or a geomancer in the DS version, you're just screwed. You're just screwed because he has insane physical defense, and there's no save. And Final Fantasy 3 has absolutely no save points. Which by the way, I think Final Fantasy 3's final dungeon is probably the reason why they started having save points. Because if you know about that thing is just a monster that should not have been allowed to exist.
Oh yes.
Okay.
The 2 dungeons.
It's 2 dungeons.
Actually, it's not even so big. It's 2 dungeons. It's actually technically 3.
Right. There's the basement too.
Yeah. So you gotta go out of the basement to get to Eureka, so you can get the ultimate weapons. You can get both of the ultimate classes that are basically required to beat the game at any kind of reasonable level, at least in the NES version. And then you gotta leave. You save outside, so that you don't ever have to do that again. Then you go back up.
You go down to go up at one point, right?
And I think you can totally skip Eureka, but it's a very bad idea, especially in the NES.
Yeah.
There's
Gonna buy
way else you
shuriken.
and also, better weapons in the classes you actually need to survive. And then you go up, fight a decently hard boss that can hit you with media, which will probably one-shot your entire party if you're not properly leveled. Watch a cutscene, fight 4 more bosses that are at least a couple of which are obscenely overpowered and will spam Quake and media all over you and murder you instantly.
I will give 3s 1 praise, but only in comparison to the final dungeon of 2s. At least they don't have you jump to random floors. Floor numbers.
Yeah, but there's no Castle Pandemonium.
Yeah, Castle Pandemonium, you go up. Castle Pandemonium, you go up random floors.
Yeah, but that
They're
music.
teleporters.
But that music.
I don't. I think almost. Oh wait, for the Crystal Palace.
No, for Castle
Oh,
Pandemonium.
every final dungeon had good music.
Yeah, but Castle Pandemonium, it's amazing.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I'm just saying the floor system was
Oh,
a piece of garbage.
Yeah, I'm just saying though, but awesome
Because you
music is
go
awesome.
from floor 2 to 6 to 5 to 7 to 3, and then
I get
to
it.
9, and then to 2 again
Yeah.
somehow. Then to 10.
Oh Christ! I don't think we need to talk
God.
about like favorite characters and stuff because we didn't actually talk about that in like 1 through 3 anyway. For the rest of us, because there isn't really much to say about many of the characters and stuff in
Latoya!
the NES trilogy.
Well, again, two has a much better cast than 1, and of course 3 you need to play the remake to have
Yeah.
a decent cast.
It wasn't really worth talking
Was
about.
there
the
even a
characters
character in
individually.
1 that makes sense?
Not really.
Uh,
I mean, develop. For what's there, it's fine, but
it's a robot.
is there?
No, I'd say the best character in 1, Garland. The guy creates a
I will
spy
knock
movie
you down.
just to get revenge for an original loss. The guy is a magnificent bastard.
But he does it before he lost.
It isn't
Pulls it all
Garland.
into, actually, before he lost, right, Dyne?
It's weird. I'll have to look it up.
Isn't
again.
Garland also given a lot more time in like the Dissidia games or something?
Oh yes.
Well, go into
Yes.
that. Well, I suppose we'll get into that more when we get to the spin-off.
Because he is chaos.
Well, no,
So-
well, let's not. You're hurting my brain, dude. I know that it's kind of convoluted when it comes to
He
Chaos
got
and
the-
Garland and all that.
He got the fiends to go into the future to get the 4 elemental energies and send it to the past. Asked for when he died, and then he would be revived to send him back to the past. So he'd be revived and do all this over again and again in this loop.
I know, no eyes on cross-eyed.
Just to kill the Light Warriors.
And this is what made the monsters appear.
When you think about it for a second here, Square Enix have always gone fucking convoluted with story, haven't they?
Kingdom Hearts.
Even since the early days in the 80s, fucking hell, they couldn't even help
Wait, did you
themselves
see that?
with one.
Oh wait, did you see that one video of this one guy doing like he normally does like a joke version of most synopses of plots or something, but when he did the Kingdom Hearts version of it, he pretty much just said it straight, exactly as is, with only a joke here and there, and he pretty much got everything down.
I have
in a
no idea who
more or
you're
less
talking
concise
about, I'm
manner.
afraid.
I have to talk to my friend about who it was.
Alright,
But it was kind of funny because he gave a concise version of Kingdom Hearts story.
that is easier said than done as well.
I have,
That man is a legend.
And normally he makes like a joke version of this stuff.
Welcome back, Opie. Actually,
Sorry.
about to
Thank
finish
you.
in a moment as well.
what happened?
We're about to finish in a moment.
Just like for the Final Fantasy did for the first game.
Alright,
Which
so
is why it called what it was.
as you said, we're splitting this into 2 parts now, just because it's already getting late for me, and we're only technically half done. So, do I need? As I said, Opie, you've provided much insight tonight. I'm sure you'll. I mean, your amazing Final Fantasy wisdom will be well remembered.
Even though it's not much, I mean, because I haven't played it, but I just adore the females.
Of course you
characters.
do.
Even but
Still, buddy, I will thank you for coming, if nothing else, and providing your unique commentary as always, as you
I
always
do my best, and thank you very much for having me here.
Now, as for the people who actually do like Final Fantasy and have played it, Dyne, Mark, NJ, Nova, thank you so much for joining me for this tonight.
And just remember, I'm the only villain who's actually effective in the whole series.
Indeed.
And you can forget about Kefka.
I'm not going to let you plug your shit because your fucking it's Twitters, your YouTubes, and your Twitches. I'll have links on all the videos, and they'll be on the screen of the video that's currently playing anyway, so you don't have to worry about that. I'll get all your links together.
Well, the only one who rivals him is 3. Now that I think about it, you're kind of right. 3 comes the closest.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well,
now.
because they put the world in the darkness before you get there.
You're still on but free right now, aren't you, buddy?
What?
If we're still on 3, can I at least talk about how 3 is like the worst final boss in the entirety of Final Fantasy history? No competition.
FF9?
No, I'm gonna say. No, we're gonna keep it. FF9
we'll talk
We'll
about
get
that
into
on
9 when we get to 9, dude.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have things to say about that.
Alright, so part 2, I have no idea when we're going to get to it. It could be quite a while from now, as I said. So, I hope you guys enjoy this. This is going to
What about 10?
We'll get to 10 when we talk about 10. Stop it, boy, bad boy. Down, Mark.
What's he gonna do when they come for you?
We're so excited to talk about more Final Fantasy that we can't accept that we're gonna have to wait till the second part.
We have to wait to... Dude, it's practically light outside now. I need to go to bed. Alright?
Okay, I'll fix the problem.
Alright, so again, thank you very much for watching. Go check out all these guys. Obviously, I'll have the links all set up everywhere. Mark's already left, fucking hell. Their links will be on the page, as you can see here. I'll have them probably in the description as well. And again, hopefully we'll do something like this.
Watch the opera segment of my Final Fantasy VI Eternal Chronicles Let's Play. Do not watch the opera segment of my Return of the Dark Sorcerer Let's Play.
It's the first thing I'm going to do once I get upstairs before I go to bed. I'm going to go watch that just to see where it is because you got me curious. Once again, thank you to everybody who joined me tonight. And till next time, sayonara, people.
Yep.
Bye,
see
guys.
ya.
Bye.